Welcome to day 2 of the week, Tuesday on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akapo, and it's a pleasure coming your way this morning. Well, stick and stay with us over the next 4 hours. We're going to be delivering to you everything you need on a morning show. And right after this, we're going to be serving you the news, followed by the news review. And guess who joins us one more time? Afil Mone, former president of the Ghana Journalists Association. He is our guest. And from there, we head into sports with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi and then hit the road on the big stories. Now, today we have a conversation on that third force. Whether Ghana is ready for a third political force, primarily an independent presidential candidate. Of course, we're talking about all of this because of the monarch butterfly. Yes, indeed, that movement set into motion by Alan John Tremantin. So, are we ready? What are the stakes? And is this going to be that pivotal shift as far as our political landscape is concerned? Well, joining us for that conversation, Dr. Abusakara Foster. He is founder, National Interest Movement. We have Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, a CDD fellow, and Ben Efson, we all know him. He's a poster. He'll be joining us with his thoughts together with Sulemana Braimah, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. Now, in terms of our citizens' microphone, we're going to be engaging the residents of Kumasi on that self-same point. Are we ready for a third political wheel or a third political force? Share your sentiments with us as we go along the AM show. Now, today we'd also be hosting officials of Reach Out Africa. They are reaching out to tell us more about their organization, and all of that slated on the chopping board this morning. Finally, we'd love you to have your say. So in the course of the live stream, share with us your thoughts, and at the tail end of the show, when we activate the phone lines, be sure to give us a buzz. On that note, the news up next. Let's get into the AM news now, into our first story. Former President Mahama is asking government to, as a matter of urgency, scrap import charges and taxes on medication and kits for dialysis treatment. His comments follow a recent increment in the cost of dialysis services at the renal dialysis unit of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Now, speaking at an event to mark this year's UN International Day for the Aged, Mr. Mahama described as insensitive government's decision to pass on the cost of renal treatment to patients.
April last week, when an upward adjustment in the cost of dialysis services at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital from the initial 380 cedis to 765 cedis was announced. Many, including patients, expressed disappointment with that increment. The hospital management initially blamed the upward adjustment on taxes and import duties on medications and kits for the dialysis service. The new prices were, however, suspended following public backlash. Former President John Dramani Mahama, speaking at the Aged Conference organized by the Los Abuelos Foundation, called on government to exempt medication and kits for the dialysis services from the payment of taxes and other duties.
Just this week, there was an uproar when the nation's premier teaching hospital, Kolebu, announced an increase in charges for dialysis treatment by 100%. This was threatening to put the cost of dialysis treatment out of the reach of many patients and their families. The explanation I have read from the Kolebu Teaching Hospital cites the increase in taxes and duties of materials for dialysis treatment as the main reason for their decision to hike the price by 100%. As an immediate measure, I call on the government to exempt medication and kits for dialysis treatment from taxes and duties to maintain this critical lifeline for patients whose survival depends on this treatment. The government should not be insensitive by passing on catastrophic healthcare costs onto the people with life-threatening diseases, especially the elderly.
On the government's debt exchange program, the former president described the inclusion of pensioners as cruel.
And let me add the recent cruel start by the government in the retirement income securities and of the elderly due to the domestic debt exchange. I'm sure you've all seen some of our elderly pensioners picketing the Ministry of Finance because the local fuel they got, they went and put it into government bonds. And all over the world, government bonds are supposed to be the safest investment that one can make, because governments normally don't default on their debts. And so this is a novelty. I mean, the trust that our pensioners had when they put their small inside bonds, today they are suffering because of that.
National Secretary for the Ghana Government Pensioners Association, Sergio Christ, bemoaned the meager pension benefit some of their members receive every month.
Government must enhance the take-home pay of ordinary workers, not MDs, managing directors, not directors, not MPs, not presidents. They are taking enough already. In order to reflect handsomely in their retirement pay when they come on retirement. In fact, some retirement benefits are too meager to write home about. I have some members in my organization who take 40 Ghana cedis a month. Imagine that. 40 Ghana cedis a month. And some people are taking more than they can carry.
The first Aging Conference was organized by the Los Abuelos Foundation, a non-governmental organization which champions the welfare and rights of the aging population who suffer from abject poverty and various degrees of deprivation through advocacy, research, humanitarian intervention, and programs. Eunice Aban Asare is the Chief Executive Officer of the Los Abuelos Foundation.
Well, the 1st of October on the UN calendar is set aside to celebrate the significant contribution of older persons to national development and also to the community and the families as a whole. So today being the 1st of October, usually as a foundation, we try to commemorate this day by putting together a set of activities, just as you are witnessing today, to honor our heroes, our senior citizens. So what you're witnessing today is the first Ghana Aging Summit to commemorate this year's 2023 United Nations International Day for Older Persons. And as you get to know, the theme is fulfilling the promises of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights for older persons across all genders.
In our next story, officials of the Electoral Commission in the Techiman municipality of the Bono East region are hopeful that the number of persons queuing to meet the deadline for the ongoing limited registration exercise will be captured. Chairperson for the area, William Bamfo Apori Bampo, described the exercise as peaceful. And Sabit has been monitoring the situation and filed this report.
The ongoing limited voter registration exercise ends today. We've been monitoring the exercise from day one. Today is the 21st day, and we are back here at the Techiman, South Constituency EC office to monitor the final proceedings so far as this exercise is concerned. We've been speaking with the acting constituency EC chairperson, the person of Mr. William Apori, and here is what he's been telling us in relation to the conduct of the exercise from day one to date.
The process has been very smooth. We've had a wonderful 20 days of exercise, and today being the last day, you can see for yourself the number of people here. So far, we've been able to do about 5,780 registrations. So that is to say that we have been able to, up our game, pushed harder to ensure that whoever comes to get registered gets registered.
Talk of this exercise, various political parties have been, coming in and out of this particular premises. How cooperative have they been so far as this exercise is concerned? Mr. William Apori tells me that they've been very cooperative and largely the exercise has been very smooth.
Honestly, these political parties have been very cooperative. They understood the rule of the game and we all played together by it. Regardless of the circumstances, we get to review the rules here and there, but at the end of the day, we always get to a consensus. So they have been very wonderful.
Ghanaians are naturally, have this attitude of last-minute, responses. Today we've seen the numbers, swelling here. A lot of people are coming in to find ways and means of registering, to the EC boss here. What is his response to this particular attitude where people have to wait until the final minute before they come in to get themselves registered?
I would say on authority that my guys are on the ground, and together we are trying to ensure that we get everybody registered. Regardless of the circumstances, I'm sure probably management will offer the opportunity to consider persons who will be in the queue before 5 p.m. And once that approval is given us, surely tomorrow in the morning by noontime, we should be able to get everybody cleared.
One of the major challenges the Commission has been able to go through has to do with people attempting to double register. People who have already registered elsewhere are trying to get into the system again. But fortunately for the Commission, the online registration system has been able to fish out such personalities. But as at the close of yesterday, 95 persons have attempted to double register here in the Techiman South constituency.
The challenge we have as a Techiman Municipal Office of the Electoral Commission has to do with persons attempting to do multiple registration. When you interview further, you also get to realize that others really know exactly they have registered, but then they come in to have their names changed, thinking they can bypass the system. But little did they know that our system is online. And so running an online system has really helped us to be able to identify about 95 persons as of yesterday who attempted double registration.
20 days into the exercise, the Commission has been able to register some 5,780 persons, and this is made up of 2,955 males and 2,825 females, with about 1,692 of them registering with their Ghana cards. So by the close of today, the EC is expecting a rise in the numbers to at least some 6,000 across the Techiman South constituency. From the EC office here in the Techiman municipality of the Bono East region, my name is Anas Sabit, reporting for Joy News.
Now, the houseboy who allegedly murdered his employer at Apaso near Sokoban in the Ashanti region has pleaded guilty to stealing more than 167 1,000 Ghana cedis from a hotel owner while working as a receptionist. John Alistair, 22, made headlines last month for allegedly stabbing to death his employer 6 days after he got employed by 35-year-old Stella Osei, also known as Princess Efua Ahenka. With the help of accomplices, he sold his madam's Kia Sportage vehicle after bolting with bags of rice cooking oil and other assorted items. Ohibing Tewia filed this report.
According to prosecution led by ASP Stephen Ofori, the accused in 2022 was employed as a hotel receptionist at Bantima after he followed up on an advertisement for a vacancy. But after a month of working with the complainant, who is also the owner of the hotel, Alistair surprisingly stopped going to work. In July 2023, the accused person returned to the complainant for the second time to seek employment. The complainant allowed him to start work immediately because of his previous working relationship. On August 6, 2023, the complainant gave her Infinix Note 8 mobile phone to the accused person to help her with some settings. The accused person, however, bolted with the mobile phone and went ahead to withdraw an amount of 167,660 from the complainant's Absa Bank account using the mobile app on the phone. The complainant reported the matter to the police for investigations, and the accused person was arrested from his hideout in Accra. ASP Stephen Ofori told the Asokwa Circuit Court, presided by her Anna Vida Yabua, Alistair admitted the offense and told police investigators how he spent the amount by using part of the money to rent and furnish an apartment. The court, however, deferred sentence to Friday, October 6, 2023, after the accused person pleaded guilty. Lead prosecutor ASP Ofori is happy at the development.
He has been in Kumasi here with the same pretension to work as a receptionist for one Madame Gloria. And in the process, that's last year, July, and then accessed the phone and I was able to withdraw 167,660 from the woman's account at Absa Bank. So that was the case that we have brought him before the Asukwa Circuit Court here today. But he has pleaded guilty. He has now been convicted of the offense, the 2 counts, the mobile phone and the amount of their money. But the sentence has been deferred to Friday for sentence. As the facts being read to the court there's no way he could deny the charge. So he himself thought it wise to admit his guilt in order not to waste the prosecution's time.
Meanwhile, Alistair is expected to reappear before the Asokore-Mampong District Court this Tuesday on murder charges for the second time after being remanded into police custody. From Kumasi, for Joy News, Oyemi Nteria reporting.
Now, details have emerged that 20 lives were lost from an accident that happened between Peki Jibu and Peki Ajoko last Wednesday. The accident occurred when a bus collided with a minivan, resulting in the death and injury of some passengers on board. Here's Peter Senu's report.
2 passenger vehicles, a Toyota Haze with registration number GT 1865-17, traveling from Wawe to Medina in Accra, and a Kia Grand Bed bus with registration number AS 9801-21 from Accra to Chindiri in the Krachin district in the Oti region were involved in the accident at about 10:30 a.m. last Wednesday morning. Joy News police sources indicate that 20 people perished in the accident. Of the 20 were 4 children aged between 7 months and 11 years. 10 females and 6 male adults were also involved. 27 persons also suffered various degrees of injuries, made up of 24 adults and 3 children. The only person who died on board the Kia Grand Bed bus was identified as the driver's mate. Sadder to note is that only 2 persons survived on board the Toyota Haze. They include the driver and a 3-year-old boy. Joining sources indicate that the cause of the accident is not yet known, as the 2 drivers are providing contrary accounts, with each of them trying to apportion blame to the other. Also worth reporting is a worrying situation where a man identified as the police commander for the Peki area, ordering for the seizure of my camera for taking shots of the accident scene. The commander in the blue t-shirt is seen pointing at me and ordering this community police to come and take my camera from me.
You can't seize the camera. I'm a journalist. No, you can't do that. No, if you spoil it, you buy. Please, don't do it. Stop. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. No, don't do it. Look, this is my. No, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't force it. Don't do it. No. No. Please, if you spoil it, you buy. No, please wait.
This incident got my journey truncated and delayed by the police for at least an hour before the camera was released to me. How I moved on from the accident scene to Kumasi is another story for a different day. Peter Senu for Joy News.
That's the note on which we cap off the AM news this morning. Up next, the news review. Do stay. Thank you for staying with us on the AM show, and we're pleased to bring you former president of the GJA Afeo Money. He is our guest as we get into the latest by way of the news and in the newspapers. But before we head to him, let me tell you a bit about Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Now, they're offering free prostate screening. If you've heard in recent times what they've said about a lot of people presenting with prostate issues or cancers, by which time it would have become terminal. There's nothing that can be done about it. Why wait? There are also the women. Many of you don't check your fertility status, what is going on in your reproductive system and all of that. Before you realize there's a fibroid here, there's a development there, and you're in a mess. That's why Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic is saying, just come by and they will take proper care of you as far as screening is concerned. And it's all for free. Of course, everything that follows then would be paid for. Here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi, Kronomwabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji State Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Enzima. Their call lines 0244 867 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease, but bringing us to the start of the news review. A very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to have you. Tuesday is here again. So I want to kickstart the conversation we're going to have. Yes, we're going to get into the newspapers, but two incidents in recent times. The Occupy Julobi demonstration. There was a police officer, you remember, the Greater Accra Police Command, who, when they were manhandling someone that they had dragged within the perimeter, our cameraman hoisted the tripod and so caught shots, and they threw water at the camera. They basically, someone pointed to the camera, one police officer pointed to the camera, and another one threw a sachet of water at it. One development. I don't know whether you followed our news a short while ago, Peter Senu reporting that incident. Again, police officers there, they see him filming. I mean, he kept saying, I'm a journalist, I'm a journalist. And he was literally attacked. I don't know, this is becoming more and more rampant, as though our work weren't dangerous enough. It is actually incredibly dangerous what we do, putting our necks on the line. But these instances, with none other than the Ghana Police Service being complicit, I'm getting very worried.
As you said, our job is risk-prone and not necessarily cash-rich. But this does not give anybody or any institution the license, especially the police, to raffle journalists in their line of duty. On the first incident, we were told that the police commander has been queried. We are yet to know the outcome of the query. This incident maybe is too fresh for the police to take action, but it is of urgent necessity for the police administration to deal surgically with their own when they flat the law, because they are not above the law. The maltreatment of one of your journalists at the pinnacle of security at the police headquarters.
Yeah. Till today. And do you know what's interesting? It's just yesterday that I was speaking to one of our colleagues here, Maxwell Agbagba. You would often find him on the ground at the Occupy Julobi protest. He was there. He's a solid guy. Usually with such instances, very spontaneous, very able to get to the scoop and all of that. It's just yesterday or 2 days ago, something like that, that I was interacting with him and, we're talking about some of these things and security, and our colleague's name came up, Latif. So when I see instances like this, I just ask myself, what is going on and how safe is it? Is it a crime to do what we do?
Not at all.
And why is the police ever so aggressive when it comes to seeing anybody with a camera? But there is no law, by the way, that, of course, you must apply common sense in instances. But there is no law that forbids anyone from, filming a negative. In fact, when you go to other jurisdictions, I remember on CNN, there was this major demonstration. The police were there, things were going on, and people were filming freely. Journalists were there filming. But you come here and everything seems to be, I don't know, topsy-turvy.
And the police know how important the work of journalists is. We compliment what they do. In fact, we give them scoops to pursue some of the criminal incidents which happen all over the country. So one would have expected the police to guard jealously the safety and security of journalists and not be the victims culprit in terms of their protection. So again, there are so many things on the plate at IGP, but I believe this one is incident which you should act expeditiously.
And this just came to mind as well right before we get into the papers. You remember the Ashaiman beating incident, the military?
Sure.
I know someone who had also, in a vehicle. So a vehicle was passing when some of it was happening. He tried filming. Unfortunately, they saw him, dragged him out. To cut a long story short, his arm had to be put in a cast. He had a broken arm.
Serious.
So by and by, the security arms or organizations within the state, security agencies, seem to think, and I think that is where a lot of their minds ought to be disabused. They seem to think that if they are doing something, no one has the right to, film it or capture it. But if you deem it wrong, why do it in the first place?
And the police should also realize, and I believe the government should also realize that this incident accounts for the precipitous decline on our position on workplace freedom index.
Yeah.
But they put all these things together, and then they do the rankings, and then we see ourselves, moving backwards instead of forward, and it's affect our image as a citadel of press freedom.
Well, when you say a prayer, wherever you are, when you say a prayer for a journalist in this country, because
we need journalists in
the journalists. What especially those who have to go on the ground and do such things. What we go through is not exactly the best. The Ghanaian Times newspaper this morning, at World Mental Health Day, MHA to rid streets of mental patients to restore dignity. There's also Teresa Kufuor, E.T. Mensah pass on. It was a double whammy, very sad weekend. Wherever you lie on the political spectrum, whether NPP or NDC, and Teresa Kufuor, we can't even play politics with this. These two people were such fantastic people. Teresa Kufuor, very soft-spoken, saw her husband through his tenure, and then, of course, the late E.T. Mensah also coming somewhere in South Africa. EC ends limited voter registration exercise. That was yesterday, and there's a lot to talk about there as well. Abide by security arrangement. Police urge minority Occupy Bank of Ghana protesters. Here's another protest in the offing, and I am hoping, because now I want to err on the side of caution. I am hoping the Ghana Police Service, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare, your Ghana Police Service, our Ghana Police Service, will do things better. I get tired of, this person has been called in, reined in, this person has been interdicted. Let's do the right thing, right? Interdiction, if someone has died, interdiction does nothing. Do you remember the 7 youth who were killed somewhere in the Ashanti region? Sure. That story.
Sure.
There were claims of till today, and some compensation. You can't compensate for human life.
Not at all.
So
you cannot put a price tag on human life.
Definitely not. But let's get into the stories. I'll do pages. There's this one. I should highlight it. 25 illegal miners jailed 200 years. Of course, that is the sum total of the jail terms for all of them. I always get happy when I see stuff like this, as few and far between as they are, because at least then it means somewhere in our country, Galamsey will be reduced, if not taken out completely. So let's get to page 9 first. Teresa Kufuor, E.T. Mensah pass on, and a former First Lady and E.T. Mensah, a former MP minister and currently member of the Council of State, have unfortunately passed on. The death of Mrs. Kufuor, 87, and that of E.T. Mensah, 77, were both made public yesterday. The president has so far consoled former President John Agyekum Kufuor and his family over the passing of his wife. After expressing sympathy yesterday to the Kufuor family, President Akufo-Addo paid tribute to the former First Lady. I've also read beautiful tributes from the likes of Kwabena Ejapong, and he was pretty close to her, being the press secretary to former President Kufuor at the time. And then let's go to page 13. It says, at World Mental Health Day, MHA to rid streets of mental patients to restore dignity. The Mental Health Authority will soon roll out strategies to keep persons with mental health off the street in order to restore their dignity. The CEO, Professor Pinaman Apau, therefore said it was necessary for all stakeholders to support advocacy efforts and provide logistical support in implementing this well-planned strategy. She was speaking at the launch of the World Mental Health Day in Accra yesterday on the theme, Mental Health is a Universal Human right. Mental health. Again, I'll come back to where we know journalism and mental health. Poor financial status of most journalists, long hours of work for people like me, waking up incredibly early and somersaulting if need be to ensure that everything happens. I mean, but mental health is something that across the board, many people take for granted.
Certainly, it's one area we need to sharpen our focus on as a nation. And there's an indication that every person has a degree of mental illness, but it varies from one person to another. And it's a pity that this aspect of mental health in general has been so neglected. Mm-hmm. And the condition at the mental hospitals speak volumes about the degree of neglect of this area of health. And according to statistics, there are about 10,000. And this is a staggering figure. As many as 10,000 mental patients roam our streets throughout the country. And we are told that 2,000, Accra and Kumasi have a figure of 2,000. 2,000
can be found in Accra and Taba.
And this is serious.
Our major cities. Yeah. Wherever you go, and sometimes, like they say, to restore dignity. I don't know how far this will go because there's often a lot of talk that results in no action. But I saw one recently. You know, some of them, you would see them with practically no clothing, so they are exposed everything. What is supposed to be private is not private. Little children see them. It's pathetic. But you see some of them scooping water from gutters and sewers, drinking. I feel terrible when I see these are human beings.
Human beings.
They may have some challenges upstairs, but they are as human as the rest of us. And there's no reason they should be out there. And some of them even pose a threat. I have seen some of them sometimes, about 2 or 3 times in recent months, where you see some of them wielding a stick or a stone, and you are not even aware when your car is passing whether he will target you or let you pass by. And some of them will be swinging them menacingly, and they're on the streets. If something happens, yet we are told we ought to pay more taxes every now and then. Those are some of the things I want to see. If someone throws something at you like that, that person is not guilty. In law, the person must have that intent and then carry out the action. You can't really. The person is clearly... So, if the person does any damage to you, it's damage that is irreparable. You can't do anything about it.
The highest law of the land, our Constitution, states in Article 15(1) that the dignity of all persons shall be inviolable.
True.
And I mean, this
it's mentioned. It's a universal. It is a universal human right.
It is a universal human right.
But is that the case in Ghana?
So, regardless of their state of mental health, such persons ought to have their dignity protected at all times. A dignity comes from the Latin word decus, meaning the richest ornament. So the most important ornament of a person is not the Porsche car in which you ride or the palatial home in which you sleep, but your dignity. So the dignity of all persons, including mental patients, should be protected at all times.
In fact, I think not even including, even more so for them, because of the stigma that usually. Yes, and then I mean, I've had so many brushes with them, and one thing I've noticed, sometimes people act very, for example, they may go to someone wanting food or something. I've realized that for most of them, there are instances where I have been somewhere, you see some of them come, and the reactions of some people, they react in a certain way to people who are aggressive towards them. And if you are calm towards them, they also react in a certain way. I have actually had opportunity where some have come at some place I was buying food, and I bought food for them. And it's interesting how they react. They are very human.
They are human.
Very human. They may have, some challenges, but they are very human. And sometimes I feel so sad sometimes when I see how some other people react to people with mental health challenges. But
This time around, the Mental Health Authority
them.
has assured the nation that they put in place effective strategies to address this menace. And let's hope and pray that it will be an empty rhetoric.
Anyway, so the EC has ended the limited voter registration exercise as well, with everything that has happened. I was watching this morning as one of those we spoke to in the Bono East area was talking about the fact that because of their live system, or there's a word he used that I've forgotten, but because online, so they can quickly run some checks on some people who are trying to double register or change their names and all of that. And that is fantastic to sanitize the register. But there are the other problems of the paucity of people who have actually registered, what more we could have attained with this process, the cost factor that is being bandied about, accusations of Parliament of not approving the CI for more funding, and also questions about the EC itself and how it's conducted this. What is your take?
I listened to Dr. Bosman Asari yesterday, and he did indicate that the EC was on the verge of exceeding their target. According to they're on the verge of exceeding their target. And he also did explain that the restriction of the registration to the district centers was to protect the integrity and credibility of the voters register.
That is the rhetoric that has been shared since day one. If you recall, Dr. Srebo Kweku, also a member of the Electoral Commission, had said that. But people have brought to the fore people from all walks of life. Sometimes I try to stay away from the politicians on this. CSOs, well-meaning people have said that even if you are restricting it to the districts, and our numbers, next year is an electoral year.
Sure.
You don't want to disenfranchise anybody. The Constitution guarantees that right. No one should be disenfranchised.
Before next year, we even have this level election.
Indeed. So if this is going to be able to mop up or capture some others that likely, looking at the challenges people have gone through, and people were missed through this window, people who had to travel, because it's a district office you have to go to, who had to travel many tens and hundreds of kilometers, and actually at a point simply gave up, because you travel, you don't get to register, you have to sleep over or go back and find money to come the following day. All of those challenges were there. So as much as possible, it makes sense. It's logical that even if you're targeting purely the regions, the districts, within the districts, all of those who wish to register, were they able to register? That's the question.
And the unintended consequence of restricting registration to register centers is that it deepens the culture of monocracy, in the sense that the resource deficient and financially disabled parties cannot mobilize people to go and vote like NDC and MPP. So from the word go, the whole system is skewed to favor MPP and NDC because they have the means to transport people, give them money to go and register. CPP, PNC, Kwadonko's party, they've all been disadvantaged from the word go. And we ought to bear in mind, logic at the back of our memory at all times, that the processes leading to the election are a significant determinant of how free and transparent an election is.
Indeed.
It's not only what happens on voting day.
No.
So all the processes should pass the test of transparency, fairness. So at the end of the day, whoever wins and beats their chest that indeed they have won a credible contest.
Thank you for those interesting thoughts. Before you come in with the papers you have, Korea government supports Ghana with 22 vehicles to host UN peacekeeping confab, and that story as well on the back page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. You have the Daily Guide and the Chronicle.
Daily Guide, Nana MPP Mon Theresa Kufuor, your introduction to Teresa, the color of her voice.
I like that, the color of her voice.
Yes, and the British inflection of her voice. And her dignity. In fact, she's a gem of a first lady. And even in there, she's dignity personified, civility epitomized, and humility exemplified. And she's brought some dignity, some value to that position. Since independence, we've had between 13 and 14 first ladies. And as in lofty Alps, there are some peaks which rise above others.
Yeah.
And I can say, without any fear of contradiction, that Sister Teresa will occupy a special place among first ladies in this country. Even in death, she stands head and shoulders above so many.
I mean, we've had some pretty stellar first ladies and continue to do so in this Fourth Republic. But like you said, some will always stand. Some will always be primus inter pares, if you like. And, yesterday I was reading quite a bit, just reflecting on some of the things, her contributions. And no one can take away her contribution to our political life as a country, especially as her husband became, the second president of the Fourth Republic. It is indeed a very sad development. And we pray for peace for her soul. Yeah. We lost another stalwart, E.T. Mensah. I honestly didn't see that coming. I wasn't aware of his medical.
I wasn't aware.
Because the last time I saw, Council of State, member of the Council of State. So he had some. So unfortunate that we've lost. So
unfortunate. He also paid his dues to
Oak Trees.
Sports in Ghana. Under him, we won
longest serving
sports minister. And NDC Star Wars. And under him, Ghana won some international claims, laurels and other. So E.T. Yawadugba, so rest in peace.
Maybe we can do the...
Galamsey story you have referred to, we have done with a research.
The Electoral Commission.
And this boy who pleaded guilty to...
Alistair.
Yes, Alistair, John Alistair. John was unemployed and John was offered a job, and as the Bible says, the heart of man is desperately wicked.
Desperately wicked.
Desperately wicked. And John, I don't know what entered his head. I don't know how demonic was the attack. And John had to kill his...
Bolted with her phone.
With the phone.
I mean, they give you a phone to do something, you bolt with it, and then everything else that followed. Taking all those sums of cash from her account, and upon all that, killing the person.
Killing the person. This is an act of wickedness, and it's sad. And we pray that he's so young and handsome, but he's dealing with the law. The law, I believe, the law will take its course. But this should serve as a warning, as a lesson to young ones, all of us, because I like this French lawyer, prominent French lawyer, who says, I learn little from good examples, but more from bad examples, which serve as daily lessons. So these bad examples should serve as a fountain of lesson for the young, those who are unemployed. If someone extends a hand of generosity, please, never turn your back, never to the extent of being killing the one who offered you employment. It is...
because often we'll draw the line and say that our administrations in and out have not done enough when it comes to employability, so that people will have ample opportunity. But then when someone gives you an opportunity like this, receptionist and all, it may not be the best, but I think the negative example as well of some of our leaders contribute to actions like this, because you meet a lot of young people who think they want to ride in that flashy car, own this and that at the snap of, it's like a genie. Hey genie, out of the bottle. My first wish, my second wish, my third wish. It doesn't work like that. But a lot of people out there seem to think if our leaders can live these lavish lives, and some of them practically haven't done anything in life. Some say, they just went straight into politics and they can live like this, People, and I'm saying this because I speak to young people, and sometimes, consciously or unconsciously, these are some of the things that slip out. And then you realize they think, it's simple. It should be easy for me to ride in a V8, to build a magnificent house, to have all the cash to spend and all of that. It doesn't help some of the recent happenings that have come to light. I'll not cite them, but we all know, which create the impression that a certain small section of politically exposed society has so much and the rest do not have. So some people have all these mindsets, and before you realize, they get swayed by the devil and get into all of it.
We want to pump into their heads that life is not a race. If you look at some of the rich men and women we have in this country at the moment, you can mention despite he was selling cassettes at Kantomato. McDan, my good friend, was a tractor mate. Kennedy Japon, the presidential aspirant, was a street hawker who was in Adisada Secondary School, Adisada College. And these are people who made it through the hard way.
That sort of thinking is in very short supply nowadays. I can tell you that for a fact. I interact with a lot of young people on a daily basis, from church to, different institutions to all manner of places. Sometimes I would even go somewhere eating with somebody and I would just speak to a person or two, a waiter, or sometimes just I'm curious like that. And some of the things people say. And one of the things that in recent times I've become very disturbed about, the propensity, the desire of a lot of these young people. Speak to about 10 young people, 8 point something or 9. You kind of have 8 point something in human beings, but about 8 or 9 of them want to leave the country.
Sure.
It's sad.
It is sad. Number one, they cannot fault them because of job opportunities, because of the job opportunities are minuscule. That is a fact. Statistics will show the thousands of students will churn out from universities every year. And only a minute proportion of them get employed. So the rest are made to struggle. And we know in an economy which is buffeted with vitally bitter cost of living crisis, vitally bitter. And as I say, go, man survive. Yeah. And the survival instincts can sometimes push us to criminal high, but God forbid. So we should double our steps, double our moves, do more to ensure that we rope in as many as possible into the employment bracket, whilst also preaching to the youth that, it's not easy everywhere. So, and that don't give the license.
No,
to
there's no justification.
Not at all.
But as we conclude on this, I remember the quote. I don't remember who said it, but this is not the end of the road for Alistair. As much as he's committed something this heinous. Remember Paul? And Paul, some say Paul. He became Paul. He never became Paul. He was Roman and Jewish at the same time. So Saul didn't become Paul. He was both at the same time. He would go here and say, I'm a Roman when it suited him. He would go there and say, I am Hebrew when it suited him. But he oversaw the killing of Stephen.
Yeah.
So in a way, he was a murderer.
Yeah, he was a murderer. He was a murderer.
Look at what
was a murderer.
God
was a murderer.
God used him to do. I was just about to mention David. So it's not the end of the road to him. For him, no one should write him off. You never know. Sometimes it takes some of these things for God to actually bring someone out and use them. And that quote, it says, every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. So the saint had his own evils. He has a past. And the sinner as well has a future, the propensity, the possibility of doing better. So we hope that God's grace catches up with him.
This will not spell the end of his life. It's he will learn some bitter lessons. I believe this will bring a turning around and he'll be useful to society.
Let's check out the next paper you have. Maybe we'll get ready to wrap up.
The Chronicle and upon chief, that's the majority leader preaching against tribal politics, and Akuto has a message presidential aspirant Dr. Usu Friakoto has a message for MPP, delegate MPP party as a whole, that the desire to break the 8-year cycle of governance will not be a cakewalk. He cited a number of factors: the state of the economy, the rate of unemployment, and a polarization in the MPP party. He's underlining the need to resolve all these issues in order to enhance the chances of the party to break the 8. NDC MPP clashes are like El Clasico.
I like the way you put it, El Clasico.
Real Madrid,
Barcelona.
Barcelona. Sometimes the form guide does not matter, but at the same time,
or maybe Kotoko and Hearts.
Kotoko and Hearts. So it's possible to break the 8, but it won't be easy under present circumstances.
Well, just for me, I always say that it's about deliverables. In the end, the people want certain things. And once they are delivered, I feel you don't need a soothsayer to come and tell them that, say Neko, and lean towards this. Unfortunately, party in, party out, they are failing, especially the youth. That is one of my foremost concerns. And the aged. Look at what is happening now with the dialysis flip-flop, and we are doing it, we are not doing it. I always say, the CEO spoke to me on this show. The PRO had spoken to us already. I'm asking, these must go through parliamentary approval. Is it possible, without all deliberations being made, for a department to put up a notice and for people to actually start making the payments, price differentials, and all of that? If that indeed happened on the blind side of the CEO, then I don't know what kind of institution is being run. But hey, that's me, and this is Ghana.
We're told that
after all, we can spend 285,000 CDs on.
We're told the price hike was not authorized, and the Sector Ministry summoned the Kolebu health authorities to explain, only for the same hospital to slap this hike on patients, and we are told that 14 have lost their lives under terrible circumstances. And this is an indictment on our sense of sensitivity and responsibility.
Right.
Because as a nation, we have responsibility to ensure that our people stay in health and deliver.
The former president has been talking about this. It's here in the final newspaper, so I'll just rehash it. Exempt medication and dialysis kits from taxes and duties. That's according to Mahama. The story of Dr. Friakoto is also here. Winner of flag bearer race has a lot of work to do. You don't say. And then Educhum, the education minister, migrates education online. What's this to online? Migrates education online, starting with 30 schools and tablets for each student. He's been doing some interesting things recently. I think it's worthy of commendation. And the approach to STEM as well is something that we ought. I think he personally has been supporting, is it engineering students or something in his constituency? That is also worth commendation. We really have to go, but this skipped me. I just want you in a few seconds to the third force, Alan Tremateng and his movement, the Monarch Butterfly. Do you think it's feasible at this point in time? Is it the best time for this?
The answer is an emphatic no.
Emphatic no.
Yeah.
All right. Would you mind in a few seconds elaborating why?
Because his local president will not support the emergence of a third force at this time.
All right.
And I don't see how a butterfly can
it fly? Can it fly above
an elephant?
Can it fly above the umbrella, and can it crash the elephant? That's the question. A butterfly.
A butterfly.
But you never know.
We are told a butterfly has a short lifespan.
Big things come in small packages.
Let's pray.
Let's see how it goes. Afil Moni is former president of the Ghana Journalists Association. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me this morning. We end with Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They are offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening. Just make your way to any of their branches here in Accra, at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrade Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswe and Esiamanzama. The call lines 0244-867-068 or 0274-234-321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But before we get into sports, Water is life. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. And we have the perfect sizes for all purposes. 330 and 500 milliliter bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 milliliters for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. We also have 19-liter jar bottles, which are ideal for homes and offices. All you must do now is drink Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. So choose a bottle of Awake Purified Drinking Water today and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you buy, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. I take my time when I get to this point because it is indeed heartwarming. It's another quality product by Casapreco Company Limited. For bulk purchases, just call 0262 351 251. This advert is FDA approved. Sports is up next.
Here with me, Muftahu Nabila Abdullah. The Africa Games Local Organizing Committee went on a tour of the facility, especially the one at the Legon Sports Stadium, one of the areas that is expected to be the center of the action during the Games in March next year. And the African Union representative for the Games, Dr. Decius Chimpande, he says that he and his team are satisfied with the work done so far. According to him, about 87% of the construction of the facilities has been concluded, and he hopes that by February, the facilities will be ready for testing.
I think we are very happy with the progress that has been made so far, and the African Union is very, very grateful with the great investment that the government of the Republic of Ghana has put into the construction of the facilities. Last time when we were here, we were assured by the LOC that by December, all the facilities will be completed and ready for the Games. And for sure, this time we just visited Legon. It's nearly complete, and here we are now. When I see the overall percentage there, I think it is about 87%. So this is very impressive. And the confederations, who are the custodians of sports, in terms of who are the custodians of appreciating the technical aspects of the organizations of the game, the organization of the Games rather, they were very impressed, and they are very supportive, and they were very happy. So this means that, you know, the Games are coming and everyone is happy in terms of the preparation so far. A lot of things, of course, a lot of work still has to be done, but we are overall very happy and very grateful for the great investment and the support from the Ghanaian people and the government of the Republic of Ghana. And as the chairperson of the LOC pointed out, of course, we are calling upon more support to the corporate world to support the biggest competition on the continent, which is the African Games. And above all, we're also grateful to the representatives of governments, you know, the chef de mission and delegation leaders who are here, also to support us and to ensure that they see the great efforts that the government of the Republic of Ghana is putting into, the great works that the LOC and all of you, the Ghanaian people, are putting towards the hosting of the 2023 African Games that will be held in 2024 in March. Thank you.
And talking of sport and infrastructure, McDan, he has constructed an astroturf for the people of Teshie and has called on other corporate organizations to also do the same to develop young talents within their various localities.
I believe you all know what the brand McDan stands for. I mean, we stand for impact. Anything we do is all about the impact. It's not how much we can do, but how much impact the brand can create. The foundation did not start today. Consistency is our hallmark, and we have been very consistent in building communities and building sports in this country. Actually, this is going to be the fifth sports village, that sports complex that we are putting up. The one at the Adra is a whole village by itself, and it's going to be the biggest in West Africa. Currently here, this is the phase 1. The phase 2 will be the VIP. We are building the whole football academy here for the people of Teshi. Teshi is a big community, and we have a lot of footballers coming out of here. So whatever we do, and we thank the sports minister for giving us the applause, and I'm also calling on the corporate Ghana, other businessmen. It looks like it's only McDan Foundation who is fully supporting some of this initiative. And I can tell you and proudly tell you that it is only McDan Foundation as a single individual who are building these parks across the country. Our next stop will be in Qatar, and also after Qatar will be in Ogua in the Cape Coast region. This is what we are doing to create the needed impact that we have to train the people. And if you look at what is going on in Ghana, there are abundance of talent, but we lack the facility, we lack the expertise. Football is a multi-billion-dollar business, and as at now, McDan had been able to send not less than 7 footballers out of this country, applying their profession in Europe. So very soon you'll hear their name.
McDan there speaking following the unveiling of a new AstroTurf for the people of Teshi. And now let's talk about CAF Champions League. And for the first time in 11 years, Ghana will have a representative in the group stages of the CAF Champions League, following Midiama's success over Horea FC in the second preliminary round of the competition. Midiama won the contest 4-3 on aggregate to book a ticket to the group stages of the competition, and president of the club, Moses Alma Parker, says they want to make an impact in the competition.
Indeed, we made history together on Saturday in Conakry, and this is a memorable event we must all cherish. Ladies and gentlemen, as well as friends from the media, even though we qualified and made it as the first Ghanaian club from Takwa to play in the CAF Champions League group stage, we want to highlight that it did not come on a silver platter, and we know we have a far more difficult task ahead, as we will play against the giant in Africa, club football, in the group stage. As a result, we will need most and all forms of support to make our championship journey successful. We do not want to be mere participants in this competition. Hence our call this morning for the government and corporate Ghana to come to our aid.
And talking of corporate Ghana coming to the aid of Midiama SC, we understand that Goldfields have terminated their contract with the club, and as we speak, they are no longer sponsors of the club. But the engagements are ongoing to see if they can get them to rescind the decision of sponsoring Midiama Sporting Club. Let's hear from the man who supervised the success of Midiama SC to qualify to the group stage of the CAF Champions League for the first time in the history of the club. Evans Odote, he says that the Ghanaians should have confidence in them and give them the needed support to do well in Africa.
To start from where we took off, it wasn't easy, honestly speaking. But thank God we were able to eliminate our first opponent, Remo FC. Before the second leg in Nigeria, media might say, sometimes I will tell the media to encourage and motivate coaches. Honestly speaking, some of you do, some of you, they start condemning coaches. It took the whole nation by surprise to see Ghana through to the second round.
Thank you, coach.
Because after winning 1-0, it came to my notice everywhere. Even calling me as a coach, I don't tell anybody saying, how did it go, blah, 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 blah. You could see there was no hope for media to sail through to the next stage. Thank God, like I said, we were able to make it. And then number 2, we won 3-1 at home. Winning 3-1 at home, my secret I want to share with you today. As I speak, we are facing challenges. Challenges 1, injury. When you talk of medical, the doctor is here to prove. We need to manage players sometimes. We need to motivate, we need to encourage players. Just die for the club. If your dignity is at stake, die for yourself. And lo and behold, we're able to go to the final stage. This time around, we are in the group stage. All that I want to tell Ghanaians is, believe in us. I have my able president, Mr. Moses Ama, who will always motivate me, who will always motivate the players. Mr. Moses Ama, God richly bless you.
And this is our wrap up AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Abla. You can join us on Joy 99.7 FM tonight as we bring you the commentary of Manchester United versus Galatasaray. That game will be live on Joy 99.7 FM. We appreciate your time.
Fellow countrymen and women, I joined the new Patriotic Party at the very beginning of its establishment as a founding member, believing in its core values and the long-standing traditions of its antecedents, predicated on the principles of fairness, equity, probity, accountability, and transparency. I have devoted the best part of my professional career to serving the party, and I still believe in the vision of the founding fathers of the party. However, the NPP, as it exists now, has very little resemblance to the party that I joined in 1992 and helped to make. Thank you. The party has been hijacked by a selected group of party leaders and elders, government appointees, behind the curtain power brokers and some unscrupulous party apparatchiks. The concept of an independent candidate becoming the president of the Republic of Ghana, though novel, will be the most innovative and revolutionary development in Ghana's political history. It will indeed be a watershed development in Ghana. Although similar examples of this model have been practiced successfully in countries such as Benin in Africa and other political jurisdictions. In a country like Ghana, that is currently embroiled in divisive political turmoil, an independent candidate who becomes president will be a bipartisan and honest broker amongst different political parties and will bring healing and reconciliation to our body politic. Ministers and other key government officials will be appointed from all parties and shall also include and shall also include individuals who are apolitical but have a demonstrable and proven track record of performance in their field of specialization. Fellow countrymen and women, what Ghana needs now is a new leader and not a new political party.
Well, that's the tale of the tape, and that is what the founder of that movement, if you like, has been telling us. He says he's going independent and that it is a movement, that third force that we've been waiting for. And his symbol, the monarch butterfly. Some people have, had their own takes on that matter. But we asked this morning, is this that third force that can create that challenge to the status quo, so to speak, the duopoly of the NDC and the NPP? This independent drive, is that what will lead us there? How much credit will you give this independent candidacy of Alan Kwadwo Kyerematen and put side by side with the MPP and the NDC? Can he pull it off? Is he at some point going to collaborate with the other parties? I mean, he's going independent, but if push comes to shove, where will his interests lie? What do you think on these matters? Well, we get into them with our guest this morning, Dr. Abu Sakara Foster. He is founder of the National Interest Movement. He joins me in the studio. We also have Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, a CDD fellow. Later in the show, we'll connect with our other guests, Ben Efson, a pollster, and Sulemana Braimah, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. Sulemana has actually joined the conversation. Mr. Braimah, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Ben. Thank you for having me. I don't know why it appears this morning there's a problem with my video. Maybe it's chosen to go independent.
That's a good one. Maybe it's it's starting a movement against you.
Oh, it has recanted.
It has. Okay. So we have Sulemana now, and Dr. Kwapong, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you too.
It's really good to have you. I see that as for you, your connection has not decided to go independent. So
not yet. It's still with the duopoly.
Hopefully not. All right, so gentlemen, we start off with this all-important conversation. I'll start with you, Sulemana. I don't think I've had the opportunity of interacting with you on the independent candidacy of Alan John Kwadwo Kyerematen. What do you make of it? He resigned, from the party. First off, he resigned from his position as Trade Minister many months ago. Now he's resigned from his party, and he's announced his independent candidacy. Is this the catalyst? Is this what is going to spur on change? What do you make of this development? Or is it just political suicide, like Afil Money, former president of the GJA, thinks?
Well, Ben, I think that it's certainly quite a significant development within our national politics. And it is so because, of course, this is not the first time we are having somebody aspiring to contest as an independent candidate and possibly contesting as an independent candidate. We've had in previous elections, people like Kwesi Amoafo-Yeboah in 2008 going as independent candidate, Jacob Osei-Yeboah going in 2012 and 2016 as independent candidate, Alfred K. Walker going in the 2020 elections. And of course, the record shows that so far, none of them was able to make any significant impact. In fact, none of them so far has been able to make even 1% in the national elections.
I think it's in was it 2004 that when there was that grand coalition, I believe they got, was it 1.9% thereabouts? And
I don't know. Well, I mean, if that's in the context of somebody going independent or or a political
yes,
party.
I mean, I get it. I'm just looking at the other side, apart from the MPP and the NDC, both independent and then, smaller parties banding together. But you're right, when it comes to the individual independent candidates, it's been a far cry in terms of
exactly, because, I mean, if you are looking at people who have gone out of their political parties to form other political parties, in the 2000 elections, for example, Guzi Tando
right,
managed to cross the 1% mark. But it's important to say that you really cannot compare the profile of all these people that I've mentioned who went independent to the profile of Alan Tremantin. Alan, certainly, whether you like him or not, has been a stalwart in the MPP, has contested on several occasions to seek to become the flag bearer of the party. And until the current or the very recent competition to elect a flag bearer, the record was that the contest has always been between Nana and Alan, and there was always the issue of Alan's camp versus Nana Akufo-Addo's camp. And so the profile of Alan Tremantin within the MPP, and of course his name recognition within Ghana, is far more than any of these people that I've mentioned. Whether it's Kwesi Amoafo-Yeboah, Jacob Osei-Yeboah, Alfred K. Walker, and any others who had contested previously. There are people who came in and people who say, oh, but who is this person to? Oh, we haven't heard of this person before. But I think that anybody who is a keen follower of Ghana's politics and democracy would certainly have heard about Alan Tremantin and his place and role within the MPP. Now, does that then mean that Alan would be a major force in the 2024 elections? And my response is that it depends on a number of factors, whether or not Alan will be able to, as for winning, that's something I doubt. But in terms of making an impact, perhaps as a result of him significantly affecting the chances of the MPP, that could be a possibility depending on a number of factors. Maybe as a result of his role taking the elections to second round, that is a probability depending on a number of factors. And what are some of these factors? One, in terms of he chipping away significantly the votes that would have gone to the MPP, I would want to believe that if in the end Dr. Bawumia emerges as the flag bearer of the MPP, look, whether we like it or not, ethnicity is such a major influencing factor in our politics. And if Dr. Bawumia wins, we're going to have two candidates leading the two main political parties, both from the north. And in fact, until the recent divisions, it would have meant that both candidates are coming from what used to be the northern region. And I believe if it happens like that, Alan Tremantin and his campaigners would attempt to exploit the ethnic factor in terms of what they can do, especially in the Ashanti region, and not even broadly in the context of the Akan-speaking areas. But in terms of Ashanti region, I have no doubt that they would try as much as possible to say, look, even if we would not win, we should make a big push to be a kingmaker in the outcome of the elections. And I believe that if that happens, certainly there would be quite a number of people who would go for Alan in the Ashanti region and in other parts where you have predominantly the Ashantis, who traditionally and predominantly are supporters of the MPP. That is one. The other thing is what happens with Kennedy Japan in the event Dr. Bawumia emerges as the flag bearer to compete with former President Mahama as the NDC candidate. Again, that represents a different dynamic because from the way things are going, and if you listen to Kennedy Japan and the rhetoric and all of that, I don't foresee a situation where he would be able to really and fully reconcile with the party and play a meaningful role in a Bawumia campaign. Because
Are you suggesting that once he's gone down this road, there is literally no turning back, especially as this is his second time stepping away from the party?
No, as for Alan, I really don't see him coming back. I mean, if he were to come back, I think he would lose all, the whatever respect that people have for him. And
you think even that would also whittle away at his credibility?
Exactly, and that would further even perhaps completely kill off whatever is left of his political career and political ambition. So for me, this is a done deal. It's either he decides that he at some point would want to form a political party, even if he wouldn't run as the flag bearer, but maybe just to have his record also going into the political records of our country. But as far as coming back, I think it would take a miracle for him to want to come back to the MPP. And as I said, in terms of Kenny Japon, a man who is now describing the National Council of the MPP as an entity that has now been turned into a hooliganism council, a person who is now saying, look, the MPP is looting the country as if there is no tomorrow and all of that. How would he come back to campaign, for Dr. Bawumia if he wins on the ticket of the MPP? So that again presents a certain dynamic. And whether or not there is any possibility of he joining Alan in that context, I don't know, because given the Ken that we know, I doubt that there could be that kind of an alliance. But as they say in politics, everything is possible. So I doubt Alan can win in 2024, even given all the dynamics in politics and the possibilities of politics. If you look at what happened in Benin, where an independent candidate won, the dynamics were completely different. And again, if you look at the voting pattern of Ghanaians, it's almost like, look, we've made a decision. We don't want to waste our vote. If we think this person has a chance, that's what we are going for. We don't want to, entertain the possibility of wasting our votes. But in the case of Alan, as I've said, in terms of his pedigree within the party and where he comes from, he would attempt that effort to say, look, even if I get a significant number of people in Ashanti region voting for me, there is that possibility that even if I don't win, people will come to me to negotiate for my support in order to maybe win in the second round. And in that case, I can make certain demands and also become politically relevant in the scheme of things. So in a nutshell, this will be my introductory reflections to what is happening.
Right. I'll now go to Dr. John Osai-Kwapong and a number of thoughts to process, basically. This is a fait accompli, if you like. The die is cast as far as Alan Kwejo Chabating is concerned. He's made his decision, and he says this is the way he will go, which also presents an interesting shake-up for the political space. It reminds me, if you'll indulge me, of that poem. I'll just read the first and last parts of Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken. I'm sure most of you already know it. Two roads diverged in the yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, MPP independent, and be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. But the interesting part is the end. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. I don't know why, but this discussion reminded me of that poem, Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken. So from where you sit, Dr. Kwapong, in the last few weeks after Alan Trematin made it clear he was going independent, do you feel it has gathered the sort of moss that a rolling stone would gather in terms of traction and maybe what you would have wanted to see from his camp after all this while? He spelled out a few things. There were accusations, yes, but have you seen what you would have expected from the Alan camp as an independent, prospective independent candidate?
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone else. So I think what I've observed is he's had quite a number of media engagements, explaining, his position, talking about some of his policy ideas, and also again talking about the reasons for his move, etc., etc. So on that, he's definitely trying to get his message across in terms of his independent candidacy. I'm yet to see that full force mobilization, from district to district or region to region, traveling the length and breadth of the country, making the case for this movement for change and the compelling reason why Ghanaians have to move beyond this NDC MPP duopoly, and then he representing that needed change and break from this tradition that we have of just rotating these two major political parties. I'm sure there are plans to do that, but I just feel like beyond that, I think it was a Monday that announcement was made, that the traction is not as much as I would have anticipated or envisaged, but at least the media engagements are going on, and so I'm sure that's one dimension of a broader strategy that he would engage in. The election is 1 full year away, so I'm sure there's still more time to engage the people of Ghana. And as I wrote in the Daily Graphic over the weekend, and I agree with Sulemana Braimah when he says, in terms of winning, he's uncertain. He's not sure that would happen, but in terms of having some kind of impact, whether it's chipping away at the fortunes of the party he's just left, or some way somehow becoming a kingmaker should he be able to push this into a second round, becomes the sort of plausible scenarios. I think the Ghanaian voter is interesting. If you look at Afrobarometer, we have a question about do we need fewer political parties, or do we need more political parties so Ghanaians have a real choice in who governs them? And yes, I know Alan's Movement for Change is not a political party, but I read that data within the context of, do we need other choices outside of this NDC MPP duopoly, right? And between 2002, when the question was first asked, you only had about 52%, about 56% saying yes, we need more parties so Ghanaians have a real choice in who governs them. In the most recent round in 2022, that percentage went up as high as 72%. But the irony for me, though, is that, so here we are saying we could use more choices in who really governs us. In a lot of public conversations, you tend to hear this narrative of, we are tired of this NDC, MPP thing, and we need a third force, etc., etc. But at the same time, in Afrobarometer, when the question is asked about voting intentions, 9 out of 10 always say they are voting within the duopoly, right? Either NDC or MPP.
Right.
And then even if you look at our actual election results too, the best showing of candidates, even combined, whether it was independent and other parties outside of the NDC MPP duopoly, was 2000 round one, where they were able to garner about 7% of the vote. Since then, all combined outside of NDC MPP, they are unable to take any more than even 2% of the vote. Now, someone might say, well, the candidates did not have the political pedigree and stature of Mr. Shemanting. And there's some merit to that argument. But the other thing that I also then raise as a counter argument is, this is also an independent who is emerging from the deep bellies of the duopoly.
Right.
So how does that also sort of raise some challenges for him, as in how truly independent is this candidature, as opposed to one that has been part of duopoly politics for years and it's sort of breaking away because of certain grievances, with one of the sides of the duopoly. So it's
pretty convoluted, isn't it?
Precisely,
there's no straightforward answer to any of these questions. I guess it's just a matter of time. And like I quoted from Robert Frost's poem, whether when that time comes and in the Yellow Wood there is that forked road where people will actually go and cast their vote, and whether we could see the development of that third force, and maybe even further than that. And we're using Alan Kyerematen as just a starter for this conversation, because we are looking at the broader conversation of independent candidacy in the country. But whether even one good showing, like you mentioned, in 2000, whether one good showing of the smaller political parties or an independent candidacy would even create that third wheel or that third force, that is another question altogether. But hold for me, Dr. Osai Kwapong. Let me bring in Dr. Abusakara Foster. Is a third force even viable in Ghana as of now? Of course, the latest person to suggest that he would go down that road is Alan Kyerematen. So we are giving some prime of place to him. But is that third force, whether political party or independent candidate, is it even viable right now?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to start by expressing our condolences to His Excellency J. Akufo.
I was going to save those for last, but since you've started.
We thank her for her gracious service as the First Lady of Ghana, and she set a good standard that should be emulated. And we pray for healing for our President. It's not easy to lose a lifelong partner. So with that out of the way, I'd like to say that the answer to your question is not whether it is viable, it is when it will come.
When it will come.
Yes, because if indeed there was no space for any other party but only two parties, NDC, MPP as we know it today would not exist, because there were several parties before them. And events happened that gave birth to these parties.
So and similar events could happen.
Yes, in the analysis of things, we always look along a linear projection. Oh, we've been able to travel from here to here, therefore we must be getting to there. That is true within a certain time frame. But as we all know, the most significant changes that usually come in human experience come from catastrophic events that make rubbish of the linear projections, because something really dramatic has happened to change that pattern. And in political landscapes, that's exactly what happens. When you have a duopoly, according to the Vige's law, a multi-party usually results in a duopoly, and then it becomes stayed, and it kills itself.
We've also seen instances like you would find in the United States.
Yeah.
And maybe to some extent in the UK, where for centuries we have had duopolies, basically. Of course, the UK has a slightly different system, but especially in the United States, we've seen that. And if you talk of these momentous shifts, look at the Arab Spring, for example. But that is on the drastic end of the spectrum.
Because it depends
if
on
you
what
look at
you're talking about. You're talking about the later periods of those countries' evolution and their political evolution, 200-300 years afterwards.
Exactly.
How old are you? You're only 60 years. So in those periods, that is when those convulsions happen. If you talk about the UK, the Labour Party was not in the mix. It was the Conservatives and the Liberals. And then something happened, and the Liberals went down, the Conservatives come up. From time to time, there's a breath of fresh air from the Liberals, and they go back again. You talk about Germany, for example, the emergence of the Greens, all of a sudden on the scene. So human institutions...
And that is a bit of an...
Yes.
I don't know whether to call it an exception, especially on the terrain, but the Greens have
Yes.
made some inroads,
Sure.
not just in Germany, but in Europe, cutting across.
And the point I want to make is that nothing stays the same forever. And if you're an analyst and you only look at the linear trends, you're missing the bigger picture. You're not smelling the coffee of when catastrophic events are about to happen and cause a rapid change.
Catastrophic events?
I mean, events that are disruptive of the status quo. That is when people take the other fork in the road, okay? Now, to finish off on that other fork in the road, what does it stand for? It stands for an alternative political solution to what is current, okay? So when people talk about independent, you really have to ask them, what kind of independent are you talking about? Are you talking about independent, oh, I tried NDC, MPP, I didn't get, so I'm now independent? Are you with me? Okay. Or are you talking independent in the sense that I have a very independent viewpoint to what is currently held in NDC, MPP, and that is what I am standing on. So you cannot just be an independent by label. You have to be standing on something if it is to mean something in terms of offering an alternative political solution. And maybe that is why independents so far have not made that mark, because they are not representing enough of an alternative political solution to what the country needs.
So they are not representing enough of an alternative
I said
political...
So far.
And I share that sentiment with you. It's a question I'll throw to the others when I get to them, because I've listened to quite a number of these independent candidates. A lot of them have come here on this show. Others we may be yet to speak to others. But I'm saying that by and large, I don't appear convinced by the rhetoric, because oftentimes it is just the same things we've heard with some twists here and there. That is me.
Yes.
But what then do we do to create, because the rational decision, I think it was Dr. Osai-Kwapong who was mentioning it, according to their surveys, most people would say, we don't want to waste our votes. And so for which reason, they probably would go NPP or NDC, even if they are not the most performing entities. Some people would still go that way because they feel it's one or the other evil, if you like. So then, where does that leave this third force argument or discussion that we're having?
I think that everything has its time and place. Yes, we've been in a duopoly for the last 33 years. Each of the two have had 16 years. How they wish to share the successes and the blames, they can argue amongst themselves about that. But as far as the rest of the population is concerned, where we are is the result of where both of you have brought us. And therefore, if we don't like it, we need an alternative solution. The problem I see is simply that as a populace, we say one thing and do another. If you say indeed that you don't like where you are and you want another solution, then you have to be prepared to work towards that other solution. Also, that solution has to be clearly defined so that you can see it. And that is where basically we have been hammering at in the national interest movement. If we are stuck by these roadblocks, how do we remove them? Okay? How does that create an alternative path for us? And what are the things that we need to do in terms of reforms and restoration back to a path where we're working for the good of everybody instead of the benefit of only a few? Now, in that message, we have an automatic choice. And you cannot at that point say, I don't want to do this because I may waste my vote. I think those days are also coming to a finish, because I've also heard several people who said, I'm not going to vote anymore because each time I'm disappointed, so I'm not going to vote.
And now we're hearing many more of those.
And then some people are saying, to be honest with you, some other people are saying, look, I was not going to vote at all, but now that I see Kennedy Agyapong, I'm going to vote.
True.
Now, whether they're going to vote as MPP or they're going to vote for him as an independent is yet another
Whether he will also go independent is another
So I
question.
think until November 4th, there is a whole lot of mixtures. But what it tells you is that finally the tectonic plates, the political tectonic plates in Ghana, have started to give way due to the pressure of the lava from underneath. And if they don't give way, then we'll have a volcanic eruption. And you know what happens when there's a volcanic eruption. But if they give way, then we'll have different lava flows. That brings about different paths. This is not something that somebody causes. It is something that comes from a society over time as a result
of a groundswell.
Habits and disappointments and things like that. So often where our ego makes us think that we are the ones causing the change. But change comes anyway. What is important is that you must have an idea of where you want to go. So when the horse of change is coming, you jump on it and ride it.
Do you think we are, very quickly, because I have to get to my other guests as well, on some of the, and I love the analogy, by the way, that tectonic plate shift, because those are the very things that, and the analogy of the lava fluid, because if it doesn't find its, if the shift doesn't happen, if it doesn't find its way, then there'll be the eruption and different streams of volcanic, element running through. But when it comes to this entire bit about the change, the different forces at play, I am just wondering, have we got to that point, that tipping point? All these countries you mentioned, they got to that tipping point before the change came to bear. You've seen the recent protests and the sentiments being shared. Are we at that point?
Well, I think we are probably even past that point.
We are past that point.
Because basically you have to look at the demography of the country.
Right.
And everything tells you that those over 60 are increasingly in the minority, and the younger ones are in the majority. And that is where the problems of unemployment, hardship in living standards, and a loss of hope, that is where all these things happen. And if indeed what is said is true, that the living conditions of those at the bottom of the pile are a reflection of the productivity and success of the intelligentsia, then it stands to reason that the elder intelligentsia have failed those people. And it is that failure that is bringing about all the sense of, wanting to see something different radically. And we must respond to that.
Right.
And if people are responding to that, you must get increasingly radical in order for them to associate you with their cause. And to some extent, it's not necessarily Kennedy Agyapong, but his approach is what has made them identify with him.
Right.
Because young people are
Brash.
and they want to see something. Now, I've heard some people say, oh, but he's like Trump. I don't think he's like Trump at all. Trump is selfish. He's not a selfish person.
Do you have a personal relationship with him?
No, I don't. And Trump is very methodical about his bullying approach. This person is actually expressing a defensive mechanism towards the oppression. Now, similarly, he may have an Achilles heel in terms of his nuances of things. But again, there are other people in the political landscape. And that is why when you come to this point, there's a need for a combination of different talents to provide that political solution.
Right. Which then means that, and coming to you, Sulemana Braimah, which then means that we may actually need, not in putting together a third force, we may actually need different forces coming together. Maybe to then go toe-to-toe with the two mainstay political parties. But Dr. Abu Sakara Foster has spoken about viability. I'll come to you on the point of practicality. He says we are past that point already where we need a third force, or where that boiling, percolating force has come. I'd just like to find out from you, in terms of that third force, organization, efficiency, effectiveness, transformation, do we have that at this point in time, which could then give birth to that push we're looking for in terms of a third force? Sulemana.
Well, Ben, I think that I agree with Dr. Abu Sakara in terms of where we are and the dynamics and the points that he raises about Kennedy Agyapong, for example. Now, in terms of, as you put it, organization, efficiency, preparations, to have a third force at this stage, in the context of 2024 elections, I would say no, unless Kenya Japan doesn't win and decides that he is going to be into a certain form of coalition. And I still see him as a significant force in this whole exercise because of what he represents and how that resonates with the current situation that we find ourselves in as a country. You know, across the region, we say, well, democracy is receding, democracy is on the back footing, people have called it the democratic recession and all of that. And the manifestations are not just when you have a coup d'etat, as we have in Burkina, Mali, Niger, and Guinea. The manifestations are in different ways. And if you look here in Ghana, the manifestations are in the form of, you know, citizens losing trust in the political system, the youth feeling so hopeless and helpless, the NDC, MPP, you know, people feeling, look, they are just different in names, but the same in practice and orientation and so on. Over the years, President Kufuor campaigned and won on the back of corruption against the Rawlings regime. The Mills Mahama government won against the MPP on the back of corruption in the Kufuor regime. Akufo-Addo won 2016 on the back of corruption in the NDC. And now, in fact, the issues of corruption perhaps is worse than, you know, all those that we
I think we've even heard, you know, from Kennedy himself, who now is an aspirant, talking about that within his own party.
Exactly. So you see, the uniqueness in the Kennedy Japan factor is the fact that he is, even as he is still within the party, trying to establish himself as somebody who is different. Look, I am different. Yes, I'm an MPP. I've been with the party since 1992, since its formation. I've contributed to the party significantly. I've been instrumental in any time the party wins an election. But I don't represent what the party is doing. I don't represent the corruption. I don't represent the incompetence. I don't represent the lack of vision. I don't represent just big talk. He says, I've done it. I have employed almost 10,000 people. I'm not a government, I'm not employed by the government. I'm an MP, I'm not a minister, and so on and so forth. So such a person and the messages that he is sending around and the disenchantment and the hopelessness of the majority youth, if he doesn't win and decides that, look, I'm going into an alliance with either Alan or trying to sit down with the PNCs, the CPPs, the PPPs, and all of that, and let's see if we can come together. I foresee a situation where he would say, look, I want to lead, and then there will be that discussions about, or the disagreement on who leads such a coalition and so on and so forth. But otherwise, that certainly would be a major force for 2024.
You speak of a number of matters, just briefly, because Kennedy himself in the political space would not be squeaky clean. He has his own, you know, though he hasn't served in this administration, member of parliament, yes, and everything else in between that we know. I don't need to rehash. But Dr. Abu Sakara Foster was alluding to some of that, the thinking. Some people even saying that he can be likened to a Trump, and of course, you know what you picture when Trump is concerned. So that will also have its own clawback, wouldn't it?
You see, Ben, we are at a stage where the response to your question would be, do the masses really care about these things now? They really care about whether somebody is a Trump or not a Trump. They just are fed up with the system. And I ask somebody who says, oh, the guy talks by heart and he says things anyhow and so on. And I say, okay, so those who have not been saying anything anyhow, and those who don't talk by heart, since 1992, what has been the experience of having those people in power? And that is the question that people would ask you. People are fed up with, oh, he's a nice person, he's a gentleman, he looks fine, he's a handsome man, and he's a peaceful man, and so on. People want work. People want employment. People want a system that works. People want corruption rooted out. I am not saying that Kennedy Japan has all that, but I'm saying that in terms of the rhetoric and how he presents himself out there, he certainly resonates with the aspirations of the masses. And to that extent, he certainly will still represents a major force. Now, it is only when he doesn't win and decides that he's forming a certain coalition that would go against the NDC. At this stage, I mean, all indicators point to the fact that whatever is happening is benefiting the NDC in one way or the other. Now, in terms of, again, the third force...
I mean, it's a tricky terrain. These are tricky waters to navigate. It's like the Amazon, long and winding and pretty deep. But the point, too, is that the NDC cannot think too far ahead of itself and think that this is all going to work out for it. Because like you rightly pointed out, if it's Bawumia flag bearership, it comes with it's a different kettle of fish. If it's a Kennedy, or someone else who and anything could happen, it also comes with different ideas, different sentiments, and all of that. So in the end, even with what has happened to Alan, some people feel the NDC is also going to bleed. So the dynamics are many, and no one can, sit anywhere and say, oh, this is really to our advantage and we are going to benefit from it, so to speak.
No, absolutely. I mean, in politics, anything is possible. But of course, you also look at the dynamics and say, if there is any advantage at all, who is the beneficiary? And in terms of what is happening, I don't think, for example, Alan, whatever the case may be, is going to have a significant number of core NDC people saying, we're going to vote for Alan. If anything at all, he's going to chip away whatever the MPP would have been making in, let's say, Ashanti region and a few of the Akan speaking areas. Kennedy Japan, as I said, yes, if he wins, or if he wins to become the flag bearer, I think things are going to be tougher for the NDC than if Bawumia wins. That's my view. And we can have a conversation about that. Perhaps time would not allow for us to go into that. The only challenge would be that whether he would have the party machinery really behind him the way maybe Bawumia would have. But really, does the party machinery at this stage also counts? It does, but it comes with all the credibility issues, all the performance issues, and so on and so forth. 8 years of the MPP. We started with every 8 years there's a change, and you need something special to be able to cross that 8. And so certainly all those dynamics are conditions that I would say are favorable towards the NDC at this stage. Again, the question about whether there's a third force that is prepared, efficient, and all of that, really at this time I would say no. And the reason is a third force must not be about elections. So we wait until when elections are about to happen, then we come together and say we want to be a third force. No, it takes an orchestrated preparation, strategic preparations, coming together. And even if it is about 2032 elections or 2028 elections, look, this is the kind of mobilization we are putting together. We want to be a third force or even become maybe a second force in Ghana's political environment. But for it to be like, oh, suddenly because the person didn't win or because certain things have been orchestrated against the person, he has resigned and he can become a third force is a no.
All
and
right.
So that's where we are. And we still have a lot of expectations ahead. And in politics, as I said, nothing is straightforward.
Thinking of this, thinking far ahead, also reminds me of the Knesset in Israel and their own unique political situation where things have evolved so much that now the groupings, political groupings, it's literally on knife edge every now and then. And as PM, you can easily lose out based on what policies you're rolling. Just to acknowledge a few of the messages we've seen coming through. This one says, the nation is on a path of decay on all fronts. That is Eli Plim Gebu. And Osman Yakubu Tendana says, I'm watching you live from the Upper West region. Regards to Dr. John Osai Kwapong. I'm going to him next, so I wanted to take that. Benjamin says, lovely crew, making the morning rejoicing, watching with joy. Okay. And this one, Deep Thinker, says, please tell Nanado that Ghanaians are suffering. Well, that's why we're having this discussion about a third wheel in our politics. Dr. Osai Kwapong, so how then can this despondency that is pervasive across the board, wherever you go, even in some government offices themselves, you go and interact with staff there and they are despondent. And you ask yourself, if you people are despondent, then what should the rest of us do? That despair in the political class, is it going to shape or have an impact on this third force, do you think?
Yes. So I think it was Dr. Sakra who said it may be a combination of various forces that come together then to produce this this third force. And then the once when he said that, I started reflecting and saying to myself, yes, it may mean that perhaps there are dissatisfied NDC partisans. There are dissatisfied MPP partisans. There are other political party supporters, those who are unaligned, maybe those who have never even cared, but are now realizing that whether you care or not, whatever happens in the system also affects you. And it would be, a coming together of all of these forces, then that combines to produce this very viable third force, then that challenges the duopoly. But the question of organization, efficiency, and all of that also comes up. Earlier on this year, for the first time, I read in detail the party constitutions for our two major political parties. And I was quite intrigued just to see the administrative structure that they have in place to run these to run their parties. I mean, right, all the way from the smallest political unit,
pretty intricate,
exactly at the polling station, all the way to the national level, and the resources that it even takes to get such an apparatus going. So even when these various forces come together to challenge the duopoly, the organization would be key, and also the resources that they are willing to pull together and invest in such an enterprise would also be key. And I go back to my earlier point. It's still an irony for me that in Afrobarometer, Ghanaians do say, we need something outside of the duopoly because we want more real choices in who governs us. But yet, the political behavior continues to, reinforce this NDC MPP duopoly. But as Dr. Sakra also said, when the time comes, nothing can stop that third force. Right?
Are we there? He says we're even past that point. Are we there for you?
I'm not seeing, I don't think it's reached that crescendo level for me yet. You're seeing signs of that. You're seeing that in some of the public conversations that we have, but I don't know if it's really hit that tipping point where Ghanaians are ready to make that break away from the duopoly. Real quick, for example, in Afrobarometer, there's a question about, do you feel close to a particular political party? For the first time, those who say they don't feel close to a particular political party is on the rise, right? But then even if you cross-tab that with voting intentions, this group of quote-unquote non-aligned people are still splitting in greater proportions for the duopoly. That's why I'm saying, we may be, there's that sentiment of, we are sort of fed up with these political parties. Even trust in our political parties is very low. But at the same time, we are still intending to go with them anyway. That's why I think that it's not reached that tipping point yet where a third force can, can come in and bulldoze its way and break the stronghold that our two major political parties have on the system. But again, as Mr. Sulemana also said, we'll have to also wait to see how the MPP primary plays out and see what, if Honorable Kennedy Agyapong doesn't win, what he intends to do. Because you also see him, having some kind of appeal within certain, sections of the populace. So I think 2024 promises to be a very interesting and intriguing election.
Well, that's an interesting perspective. I seem to be hearing all of you saying that, and I want to clarify whether this is the positioning. I'll just start with the two of you quickly and then come into the studio because I want brief answers. Are you suggesting then that the only form of redemption currently for the MPP would be if Kennedy Agyapong maybe gets the nod ahead of Dr. Bawumia? That would be the only reprieve to sort of put the MPP in any position to even contemplate breaking the 8. Sulemana, quick answer on that, very briefly. And same to you, Dr. Osai-Kwapo.
Well, I think it's not a straightforward thing to say an absolute yes to that because
But you lean more towards yes.
Well, I think that given the track record and given, over the period, the pronouncements of Bawumia compared to what has happened, I really feel strongly that there will be credibility issues in terms of, putting him up as the person to break the 8.
All right. Okay. Dr. Osai-Kwapo.
For me, the question of the redemption is more of Alan's departure is already hurting them, or will potentially hurt them. They don't need any more hurts. That if Honorable Kennedy doesn't win, he still somehow sticks with the party.
All right. For those of you out there, as we cap off this conversation, we'd like to know: would you vote for an independent presidential candidate? Would you vote for a third wheel, a third force? But coming to you in the studio, I don't know whether you're contemplating coming back to the fray in terms of the political terrain and whether you would actually be contesting. But what is your take on this?
I think there's always based on trends and events. But the key thing that we need to, I want to respond to, is the fact as to whether there is a possibility of a third political force emerging or not. I think that possibility is real because all the things that we have enumerated as being against it are certainly surmountable in this period. When we talk about organization, what we are really talking about is monetization of the political process. And one of the reasons why the external forces have not made headway is because they're very poorly financed and don't have the finances to lay out the organization. If it's organization, sometimes these smaller parties know how to organize even better than the bigger ones because they can do more with less money. But if we get past that critical threshold of what do you need to put up a credible campaign, and what I mean by that is not credible in terms of the message, but credible in terms of the ordinary voter who sees that, oh, all of a sudden, these people have 250 pickups. They have offices here. You only need about $2-3 million for that. Are you with me? So if people who are coming into the domain of independent candidature have those resources, all of a sudden the issue of I'll be wasting my vote will no longer be there for those kinds of voters because they will see the apparatus that is the same as the others have. Not to mention that internally also, there are a lot of MPs who were pushed out because of monetization. In other words, the money was used to get them out of popular positions. If those people decide to contest independent, it will also be another
It will have an impact.
Yes.
Gentlemen, hold for me. Let's cross over to Nana Boakye Adam. He's speaking on the same matter. He is in Kumasi, and we are asking the question about whether the residents of Kumasi would actually give that third force any chance at all. Nana Boakye, if you can hear me, please take it over.
How we have had the MPP and the NDC take over Ghana for almost 3 decades now. Is it really possible for an individual to stand out and say he can be the formidable third force?
I mean, yes, because right now, just as I was saying, Ghanaians are calling for a third force. It's been long overdue, but the problem is now that who could that third force be? Because at least you have to ascertain the political might, the clout, the experience, the exposure, what the person can really put on the table. Does the person have a roadmap towards liberating this country beyond what the MPP and the NDC have done over the course of 3 decades? So, of course, yes, if Ghanaians should find...
I'm ready here. I'm here. I just come to the guy. I just spoke to the guy. He said he's having a fit. I don't know why, but
to become the president of Ghana? Would it not be a difficult task for any other person?
You see, one thing is that I thank God for the lives of most Ghanaians of late, because in those days, around the early 90s, around the 92s up to the early 2000s, you get to realize that politics or politicians were more or less like a cult. Only few Ghanaians were so politically sensitive and active, right? So the level of discourse, the narrative, people were not so much interested. But now, because of the fact that literacy rates are, climbing higher, the pedestal, you get to realize that people are now becoming politically conscious. Even the average Ghanaian now on the street of Ghana is becoming politically really conscious. So the fact that Ghanaians are now becoming politically conscious, they will now begin to move from that extreme kind of partisan affiliation. For instance, if you look at the New Patriotic Party, what is happening in their party right now, there is no cohesion, there is no unity, and now they cannot even present any formidable candidate that Ghanaians will really root for. If you do the mathematics from a citizen vigilante aspect, you guys realize that the person that the Akaba want to root is not somebody Ghanaians are calling for. If you go to the NDC, somebody like the ex-president Mahama, Ghanaians knows his deeds and what he has done over the course of time. It is not anything to write home about. So should a worthy candidate emerge, I know for a fact that Ghanaians will go for such a person, regardless of the fact that, because if you look at the Ashanti region, for instance, if you go to the market women, this is the heart, the central business district, they are now saying that the MPP is more or less taking them for granted, because they feel like, in quotes, should they even present, an animal, they will still vote for the animal even at the expense of a human being. But they are saying that now.
Nana Boakye Yadom walking us through some of the sentiments on this matter, but also something related very much to the conversation, the Bank of Ghana, Occupy Bank of Ghana demonstration, that has partly led us to where we are now. We have the minority leader, Dr. Cassiel Forson, addressing the crowd currently, speaking to the media. Let's hear what he has to say.
Economic crimes that we are seeing today. We think that this particular governor should not be allowed to stay in office. He's a printer. And we all know what printing does. Printing of money is like an alcoholism. The perceived good effect comes immediate, and the hangover comes after the party. This Akufo-Addo government, together with the governor, hasn't been fair to the people of Ghana. In fact, Governor Addison printed for President Akufo-Addo for them to live a champagne lifestyle on an appetition budget. We can't continue this way. Today, look at what is happening to our economy. Ghanaians are struggling, finding it very difficult to survive. In fact, some are struggling to eat 3 times in a day. We can't continue this way. And so clearly, what is happening in this country cannot continue. We want this government out. The governor must go, and the president must be allowed to appoint a new set of Bank of Ghana team. And that's what we're waiting for.
We have the minority leader here, Cassiel Forson. Let's find out from it. You're live on Joy News on the AM show right now. The last time you spoke on Joy FM, you had disagreements. You said that you had disagreements with the police on the route for this demonstration. We want to find out
is the minority, are the protesters going to go with the police directive? The route
So
to use for this demonstration?
we are ready to work with the Ghana Police Service. They are indeed here to protect us. This protest is organized by the minority in Parliament, the official opposition in this country. We have every right under the Constitution to protest. And as part of our oversight responsibilities, we can use this route to express our revulsion against the conduct of the central bank. Our position is simple. The Ghana Police Service must show us where the security zone ends, the so-called security zones. We'll comply with that. We'll get to the end of the security zone with the protesters. And at that point, I, together with the leadership of the NDC minority in Parliament, must be allowed to walk to the central bank to present petition that should be received by the governor himself. He must be the one to receive our petition. And won't just hand over to him, we'll read it to his hearing and would demand his exit today. If he fails to exit, there will be series of actions against him.
So what happens if the governor of the Bank of Ghana does not come out to receive your petition?
Then we will not live there.
You will not live there?
We will not live there until he receives the petition.
You stay there throughout the night?
Yeah.
So tomorrow?
We'll live till Thy Kingdom. We'll stay there till Thy Kingdom come. He must be the one to receive the position, nothing more, nothing less.
That is even a rep from the central bank.
Him. We are not. We are not protesting against staff. We are protesting against the conduct of a governor.
So don't you believe that
against the conduct of the governor?
And give it to him?
And our position is that he should be the one to receive it. No one else. We are not handing over the petition to any other person. Not his deputies, but he himself.
And you're demanding that he shouldn't only receive the petition, but also stand there and listen to you read it out to him.
He must hear the content of the petition. What happens when we give it to him and he fails to read it? We want him to hear it and give him the justification why it is in his own interest and the interest of the people of Ghana for him to say bye-bye to the central bank.
Okay. Thank you for speaking to us. You just heard the minority leader, Kasala Tufose. He just arrived here on the ground. Right now, he's meeting the leadership of the Ghana Police Service, who will be maintaining order here on the ground. Let's hear what this conversation is about. But we've seen many of the minority members here arriving here on the ground. An aide to former President John Mahama, Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, also just arrived here on the ground. Let's speak to him. Felix, you're welcome. We're live on Joy News.
Yeah.
I just interacted with the minority leader, and he was telling me that if the governor of the central bank fails to come out to receive your petition, you're going to stay there till Thy Kingdom comes.
Of course, we want to send a clear signal to him that we are not impressed with his abysmal performance. We know that he has conspired with President Akufo-Addo, Alhaji Bawumia, and Ken Ofori-Atta to do enormous damage to the Ghanaian economy, which damage has resulted in the plunging of millions of Ghanaians into excruciating hardships and poverty. For that reason, we have decided to send a signal that we are unhappy about this situation, and we expect that as a public servant who is paid with the Ghanaian taxpayers' money, he will show respect to the people of this country by coming out to receive a petition which codifies our disagreement and disenchantment with his management style, which has ensured the bankruptcy of the central bank and the bankruptcy of the Ghanaian economy. Okay. So we look forward to seeing him.
Okay, Felix, we want you to hold on for us right there. We want to hear what the police is saying, and then we'll get back to you.
And then the host of other MPs, just to assure them that we are here very early, as you can see, managing traffic, ensuring that everything is secure and safe for you. Just to give assurance that we are here. Greetings from the Inspector General of Police and the Police Administration. We are all here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And then representative from the police headquarters. Let me also say that we are grateful.
Thank you so much.
We are grateful. But I want to assure you that the NDC minority does not mean harm. We are going to embark on a simple, peaceful protest. It is my belief that this protest will be one of the most peaceful protests you have ever witnessed. We are going to stick to our agreement. We will move from here as and when we are ready. We will stick to the route. We'll do a U-turn. And that is where we have a disagreement on where we should turn. We believe that at the end of the day, we will terminate at the end of your security zone. But the leadership of the NDC minority, which you know is not a large group, must be allowed to see the governor at the central bank to deliver our petition to him as a person. Because we think that what we are doing is in the interest of this country. And we believe that it is in the interest of every citizen for us to do what we are embarking on. And this will go a long way to improve on our governance and the way our democracy is going. Democracy is shaped over a period through things like what we are doing, to enforce the law. The only thing missing in our democracy today is accountability, where citizens are held accountable to their actions and inactions. This particular governor has caused so much harm to the people of Ghana. He has single-handedly, working with the economic management team, deprived and impoverished the ordinary Ghanaian. A minimum of 850,000 Ghanaians has been moved down the poverty line because of his action. And I've always said that printing of money is like alcoholism. The more you print, the bad it becomes. And it should be remembered that when you print money, the good effect comes immediately, perceived good effect. But the hangover comes after the party. This Akufo-Addo government hasn't been fair to the people of Ghana. And that is why we are doing what we are doing. This governor printed money to finance the champagne lifestyle on our petition budget of this administration. Here we are as a country. Everyone is struggling. And that is why we are doing what we are doing. We urge you, just protect us, but make arrangements whilst you protect us for the governor to be ready to receive our petition in person. As for that one, we will not compromise on it. We want him to meet me or together with the NDC leadership in Parliament to receive that petition. Until he receives it, we are not leaving there. That one, we need to get him to receive that petition. That is all what we are asking for. He is the one that has committed these atrocities against the people of Ghana, not members of staff. The power in the central bank is wielded through the governor of the central bank. He must listen to us and receive our petition. Simple. That's all what we are asking for. On behalf of the NDC minority, let me also express our appreciation to the Ghana Police Service. Even though you tried to put impediment in our way from the beginning, but in the end, we have agreed to disagree. We have agreed to disagree. That's the beauty of democracy. My regards to the IGP and the entire staff of the Ghana Police Service. I can assure you, this protest will be a very peaceful one.
Thank you very much. Just heard the minority leader, Kasiala Tuforson, in that interaction with the leadership of the police here on the ground. Order. Let's continue the conversation with Phyllis Bachio-Fosu. A lot of the disagreement has been with the route for this demonstration and the final point where you're going to end the protest. How significant is, the hashtag occupying the Bank of Ghana?
No, you see, a demonstration is not an everyday activity, and a demonstration is not called for fun. It is intended to send a signal over a disagreement or dissatisfaction with a particular conduct. So the route that is chosen for that protest is significant and important. I do not see why it should be a problem for Ghanaians to march to the Bank of Ghana to present a petition to the governor. I do not see which serious violation of law and order that would constitute. So I'm quite frankly surprised that the police wants to create the impression that it is such a major difficulty and that they cannot offer security. The people who have showed up for this demonstration have no intention of going to cause chaos or going to engage in any unlawful acts. They just want to show presence at the destination where the greatest harm has been done to the Ghanaian economy. So I don't think that any problem should arise. The police should have adequate capacity to ensure that no law is breached or that law and order is not undermined. And therefore we are determined to achieve that objective of going to the Bank of Ghana to present our petition to the governor.
Why the Bank of Ghana and not the Jubilee House like we've seen in recent time? If you say that the back stopped with the president, absolutely, one would say that it should be at the Jubilee House, not the Bank of Ghana. We are aware
that it is the president and his sidekick, Alhaji Bawumia, who are behind the collapse of the Ghanaian economy. We are fully aware of that. But the governor is symbolic to the extent that it symbolizes institutional decay. You know, the governor has adequate powers in Ghanaian law to prevent what happened. He has a right to refuse to comply with any request that has detrimental effects on the Ghanaian economy, but he didn't do it. So the protest is symbolic in that it is to send a signal to any and everybody conspiring with the Akufo-Addo-Bawumia government to do damage to this Ghanaian economy, that the people of Ghana will hold them accountable. So it is the first in a series of steps to drum home that point.
And what happens if the governor and his two deputies, what happens if they do not resign?
Well, we will not relent. We will not relent in making that demand until he goes. So a real showdown is about to take place.
A real showdown?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. We are here. Joy News is definitely here. Sure. We're going to keep tabs on what is happening. Let's speak to Enus Afuseni. Let's speak to Enus Afuseni. We're live. We're live on Joy News. Well, so just in your shot right now. Minority Leader Kasel Atuposin just finished this meeting with the Ghana Police Service. Now in a brief interaction with some party supporters. Before they leave this point.
Leader!
The hundreds, rather thousands of supporters of the NDC, concerned Ghanaians, have all converged here at Obrasco. As early as 6 a.m., we saw people arriving here on the ground. Police also here as early as 6 a.m. with their crowd control vehicles. At 6 a.m., when I got here, I saw 3 buses full of police officers here. The minority leader, in his address at a public forum on occupying protest, on the Occupy BOG protest, you remember the University for Professional Studies Accra, he stated the reasons why they are protesting and why the governor of the Bank of Ghana and his deputies must resign. That presentation was on the 31st of August. And amongst others, the minority leader, who you can see in your shot right now, among others, said they're embarking on the Occupy BOG protest march to back their demand for the immediate resignation of the governor of the Bank of Ghana and his 2 deputies. He reiterated that point some minutes ago. Their reason for demanding the resignation of the BOG governor, they say the BOG governor and his deputies have mismanaged the Bank of Ghana and illegally and excessively printed money between 2019 to 2022 in contravention of the Bank of Ghana Act, leading to a hyperinflation of 54.1. Let's get closer and see what is happening. A lot of party faithfuls, a lot of Ghanaians who have arrived here. You can hear them screaming, leader. Let me speak to Reverend Jackson, one of the protesters. Let's talk to him. He's a pastor and he's taking part in today's protest. Hi, sir. What's your name?
My name is Reverend Jackson.
Reverend Jackson.
Yes, sir.
You were here as early as 6 o'clock a.m. when I came here in the morning.
Exactly.
Tell me, why are you taking part in this protest?
Because I'm Ghanaian. Things are bad. Watch. Let the Sambo speak for yourself. Let the Sambo speak. Have you seen it? Corruption, everything. And Addison must go. Addison must go. Addison must go. Yes.
Let's see what you have on your big. This is a mini billboard. It is not a placard. It's a billboard.
I intentionally did it.
Okay. Hold on for me. Let's hear some of the revolution songs they are singing. Hold on for me. More of these songs as the protesters walk through the principal streets of Accra. Revolution songs, protest songs, freedom songs, all of that in a bit.
Yes, sir.
Let's come back to you, Reverend Jackson.
Yes, sir.
You say, what? On your mini billboard, you have stop corruption.
Yes, of course.
And thievery. Stop pollution and contamination.
Our environment. That's what I'm saying for you.
Ghanaians are suffering.
Yes, of course.
We can make Ghana and a better place. Let's fix Ghana.
Is it not true? Is it not true?
Too much corruption in Ghana.
Everything is corruption. Why? Our president promises that the corruption he will protect the public purse. And look at what is happening now. Sister Adapa, $1 million. Do you know? Can you imagine how many buildings, the school buildings, or the bridges, or the electricity, or how do you call it, the traffic lights? That $1 million can do. Everything is corrupt. I am disappointed in my president. I am disappointed. When they want the power, they come to we the pastors to pray for them. They want that if they want to do their, how do you call it, campaign, they come to our churches for their campaigns. When they finish getting the votes, they said we shouldn't interfere in the politics. It is a lie. The Bible is about politics. So we from henceforth, every demonstration about Ghana, I will come. I will.
You are part of the clergy, and the clergy has been accused of not, speaking out. The clergy has been accused of not, speaking when it matters.
You know something? Let me show you something.
And some people are saying that it's a subtle endorsement of what is happening.
Do you know?
And it's also points to the fact that perhaps things are just being exaggerated. Things are not as bad as others would want.
We are all in. We are all in Ghana. Have you traveled to any country? We are all in Ghana.
So why is the clergy?
They are quiet because of their selfish interest. Apart from Reverend Kofi Odro, nobody's speaking. So I have decided that I should come and do my best.
We should be sitting.
Hold on for me.
Yes, of course. So things are bad. So Addison.
Wait, hold on. One at a time. Hold on.
Addison must go. That is our request. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Reverend Jackson.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you for talking to us. Well, let's speak to former Adenta aspirant, NDC aspirant, Asibi Awuni. Let's talk to her. Let's find out from her why she's also taking part in the protest. Hi, Asibi Awuni. Welcome to Joy News Live.
Thank you.
Tell us why you're taking part in this protest. I see the Ghana flag around.
Yes, representing the citizens of Ghana here, we are just demanding better accountability and better running of our economy and the Bank of Ghana.
Okay, so that's what you're here?
Yes.
Great. Can you tell me what you make of the state of affairs right now in this country?
I believe that so far this government has been a scam, has been a fraud. There's been so many things that have been mismanaged. There's no accountability, there's no credibility. The people of Ghana are suffering while they are looting and sharing monies between themselves, their family and friends, which I believe is not fair to the people of Ghana.
There are neutrals who also think that we find ourselves caught between the devil and then the deep blue sea. They think that politicians are all the same. NDC would complain, they come into power and still repeat the same mistakes that they are complaining about today. You are a member of the NDC. What do you make of that?
I believe that it's just one simple question you need to ask yourself. Look at your living conditions now and compare it to a few years back. How different is it? When you look at inflation rates, it's at an all-time high. If you look at the dollar, the exchange rates, it's crazy. We are suffering. Petrol prices have been increased. Ghanaians are suffering. And then when you look at the expenses that this government has been doing for their personal interests at the expense of things like providing hospital, healthcare for the citizens, it's unbelievable. So you should just look at.
So all of this feeding into the conversation we're having about change in our political system, change in the way things are being run. Well, those who are participating in that demonstration, the Occupy Bank of Ghana protest, they are talking about revolution, changing the guard at the central bank. But to conclude with our conversation in the studio, what then is the way forward? And is this an expression of the change we're looking forward to? Gentlemen, that's how we'll cap off the conversation on that third force that we are discussing this morning, whether it's even viable and what it will take to get there. So where do we go from here as far as that discussion is concerned? I'll start in the studio with you, Doctor.
Well, I think it is a matter of how it comes about. The problem we have is that we keep thinking about it in a linear way with respect to one particular individual. But when the time comes for these things to happen, it usually is a combination of so many different forces. And in that sense, those forces bring together their strengths and compensate each other for their weaknesses. And that's what enables them to present that different alternative.
It's not a one-man thing.
It's not a one-man thing. But the important thing that binds them all together is that we are offering something different and something that will be better than what is there at the moment. So that alternate political solution and the roadmap for that is what will unfold and must unfold. It must be based on reforms and restoration to a system where we are working for the interest of the many and not a few. However you like to describe it, etc., that is what people are yearning for. Nobody pushes a vehicle which does not contain their interest or their luggage, for that matter. So if we want to all push together as a country, we must all have that vested interest. And we must allow the national interest to subsume the partisan and parochial interests. That is where we went off the road, and now we have to get back on the road with that. However we do it, whatever combination of things that we used to do it, that is the essential thing that must be done now. And you cannot say that, oh, we will get back on the road later. We will travel a bit on the wrong way for a little while longer. No, the quicker you get back onto it, the better for you.
Thank you, Dr. Abusakara Foster. Let me come to Dr. John Osai-Kwapong. Hello, Dr. Osai-Kwapong.
Yes, Benjamin.
So the same beat as we conclude the conversation. You've seen the demonstration. You listened to our interaction in Kumasi. Where do we go from here as far as that discussion on the third force is concerned?
Just like Dr. Sakara said, it will take a combination of different forces. It would take people recognizing that they have a personal stake in the system, that whatever happens, whether the system works or not, it also affects them on a daily basis. And once they are able to tie their everyday life, everyday interest to what happens or doesn't happen, then you could get that critical mass that would say either we are demanding more from our two main political parties, or for the first time we would really follow through this thirst that we keep saying we have for an alternative that will truly look out for our interest.
Thank you for those succinct comments. Sulemana, you have the final word. We just lost Sulemana Braimah, but he joined the conversation, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. If time had been extended, I would have run something else by him, but we've lost him. Dr. John Osai-Kwapong is a CDD fellow, and of course, we also had Dr. Abusakara Foster, founder, National Interest Movement. I'm still curious. We'll find out whether next year you'll be lacing your boots to do anything.
Let's examine the political terrain.
Let's examine the
Let's see some more movement in the tectonic plates. But I'm very happy today to see the collaboration between the police and the protesters, because it shows that at least there's a recognition that there's a right to protest, provided it is peaceful. But I hope it is not only because these are minority leaders and that they're also parliamentarians, and that if they were youth, their reaction would have been different. Because the right of every citizen is equal. And we must begin to see a situation where the police treat everybody with respect as citizens that have their due right to protest. And also I encourage our youth to also be peaceful in the way they go about their protests. That will only encourage more and more people to come. When we had the first Fix the Country demonstration, I was there. The second one with John Tekwe, I was there. And each time I kept telling them, the more peaceful the protest is, the more you'll get other people coming. And in that second one, housewives were there. If they know nothing untoward is going to happen, everybody is feeling the pressure. But who will come out and support you? And depends how you conduct yourselves.
That's a very forceful point that you make. But let's reconnect now to the Obrasport area, where that protest actually is taking off from. Maxwell Agbagba, my colleague, is there. Let's reconnect and find out what is happening on the ground.
Do you think you go to heaven? If the people are not happy, God is not happy. Are you getting me? And Bible said if the righteous rule, the people rejoice. But if a wicked person is leading, the people suffered. So in another words, you want to tell us that the scripture is fulfilling himself? Why are wicked? He's telling us that the scripture is fulfilling himself? He is my leader. I pray for him. To have long life, I pray for him to rule the nation very well. But when you get a time when the people were lamenting, shouting, you refuse to listen to us. What do you expect the people should do? So demonstration today, we will do it today.
You think the president is not? You think the president is not listening to the people?
The president is not listening to us.
Really?
Yes. The system is very difficult. There is no money in the system. But see what Bank of Ghana did. Are you getting me? See what the Bank of Ghana did to us, we the citizen. There's hardship. There's no, see, people, I give money to people. Even today, I'll give money to people to get some food to eat. Are you getting me? I pay people's school fees. I pay people's school fees. So what again? What again? We cannot carry gun. We will not need to carry cutlass and things. We have to talk to you. A leader must listen to the people and do what people want. You are here to serve us. You are here to serve us. Since you are here to serve us, you must serve us well.
Okay. Thank you for talking to us. Reverend Sebastian Akbalu,
yeah.
Founder of
Christ Kingdom Worldwide Ministries.
Okay, and you're here to take part in the protest in your castle. Okay, thank you. Thank you for speaking to us. Well, more members of the minority are arriving here on the ground. In your shot right now is Ningo Pram MP. Sam George also arriving here.
That's all.
The protesters have not moved yet, but we're getting signals, we're picking signals from the leadership. In the next 30 minutes, let's talk to Lingo Pram MP, Sam George.
Yes, hi.
Welcome to Joy News, to live on Joy News. You just arrived here on the ground. What do you make of what's happening?
Oh, I've been here for over an hour.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw you in your car.
I've been here for over an hour. I've just been monitoring and watching. But everything is fine. I think the numbers are coming up. People are showing up. And we're headed in the right direction. I'm sure that giving about another hour we'll be moving. Yeah, but
I was speaking to the minority leader, Kasela Tuforsen, and he was saying that if you get to the central bank, the BOG, you want the governor himself to come out and receive the petition. If he doesn't come out, you're not moving. You're going to stay there until the kingdom comes.
The governor is a coward. Dr. Edison is a coward. I mean, and this is not going to be the first time. I've served on the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament for 7 years, and at least every year we invite him twice to appear because of the Auditor General's report. And I can say on authority that Dr. Edison himself has appeared before the Public Accounts Committee maybe 2 or 3 times in 7 years. He's a coward. He runs away from his own work, from his own failings. Most times he sends his deputy, Maxwell. And I won't be surprised that today it will be Maxwell who would have the balls to come out. Edison himself won't come out. Edison is a coward, and I'm putting it to him. You are a coward, and you have failed. You are a colossal failure. Because look, where we sit as a country, let's call a spade a spade. We have 196 central banks for 196 countries across the world. In 2022, the Central Bank of Ghana, the Bank of Ghana, came last. We had the worst performing currency in the world. Our currency was worse than the currency of Yemen, was worse than the currency of Syria, worse than the currency of South Sudan, worse than the currency of Yemen, worse than the currency of Ukraine, Zimbabwe. Our currency was worse. So come on, if you send your child to school and the teacher you ask to teach your child, or the lesson teacher who is teaching your child at home, goes to write the licensure exam and in Ghana comes last, would you continue? But what even annoys us as young people the most is that in 2022 they increased their allowances to themselves by 100% and paid themselves 8.7 million as allowances for coming last. This is the failing of the governor of the Bank of Ghana. This is the same governor of the Bank of Ghana who in 2022, apart from borrowing in excess of the 5%, 38 billion, to the government of Ghana in clear violation of the Bank of Ghana Act, proceeded to spend over 156 million on what they call maintenance of vehicles. Go and check STC and VIP, how much they spent on managing their fleets for the whole of 2022. The Bank of Ghana is spending more money than them. In 2022, Philip Edison spent 97 million Ghana cedis on foreign travels. 97 million Ghana cedis. From 2012, the Bank of Ghana has every year been making 1.5 billion as profits. Edison alone in 2022 makes a 60 billion Ghana city loss. Now, let me tell you what this is. 60 billion is more than $5 billion. Now, Ghana has gone to the IMF for 3 billion over 3 years. So basically 1 billion, about average of 1 billion a year. And in 1 year, Edison is losing more than 5 times what the whole country says will fix our problems. So who is our problem? If the whole country needs 1 billion from the IMF every year for 3 years to fix our problem, and Edison in 1 year can superintend the loss of 5 billion, who is our problem?
So fair to say that Addison is our problem and not President Akufo-Addo like others want us to believe?
Oh, the appointees are a reflection of the appointor. Been a colossal failure. President Akufo-Addo will be studied by your children and grandchildren on being the worst president. He's going to be cited in political science classes as how not to lead a country. President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia will be studied in economic classes on how to collapse a functional economy that was handed over to you on the basis of rhetorics and theory. That is going to be their legacy.
Because we studied also for introducing free senior high school.
Free senior high school. What is free about senior high school today? You send your child to school for 4 weeks and then you have to pay a lesson teacher for 20 weeks to cover up. Paying the lesson teacher is more expensive than if your child was in school before free SHS. The finance minister himself doesn't agree with that policy, because you can't have a policy where even people who were paying $12,000 for A levels or for in junior school in year 9 come to senior high school and say they can't pay. Free senior high school must be selective. Why are we not issuing LEAP grants to everybody in Ghana? LEAP, Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty. Why are we not giving it to everybody in Ghana? Why are we targeting and selecting?
Is this something the NDC will do?
Because the NDC's policy...
Because the LEAP money has always been just some bigger.
No, but the point I'm making with LEAP is simple. You target those who are vulnerable. You don't make it for everybody. If you had decided you wanted to give LEAP to every Ghanaian, the government would have collapsed. And that's why we're saying the educational sector is collapsing because of this wholesale approach. You must allow those who can pay. You should be able to give subsidies to some people, and some people must be able to get it for free.
But if it is targeted also, people with influence sometimes will find their way around the system and still benefit.
And that's why and that's why the president and his appointees must build a system that will not be abused. You understand me? And so when you have Bawumia, who was touted to us as an economic whiz kid, we were told that Bawumia knows where the money is. And now Bawumia has come and has run away from the economy for which he was sold to us, and is attempting to make himself an IT boy. I mean, ask yourself, what does Bawumia know in IT? What does he know? He's run away from all the lectures he gave at Central University. Did he give you a lecture in ICT in Central University? You know, and they have failed this economy. Okay, so and instead of them being humble enough to deal with the fundamental issues we're raising, Bawumia is busy campaigning at this time with state resources in convoys of over 40 cars with taxpayers' money, seeking re-election. My goodness, people have lost their sense of conscience. Ask yourself, what is happening to the young people of our country? The hunger and desperation. And I keep repeating the advice that the Asante Hene gave to Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in 2017. When he went to pay his first courtesy call on him, he said to him, people voted against the NDC in 2016 because of hunger and anger. And so Akufo-Addo should be minded today. And look, forget that I'm an NDC person. You were in Ghana in 2016. The situation in 2016 and the situation today. 2016 felt like heaven. The NDC is not perfect. But look, where we are today, this is abysmal. We can't get any lower.
Thank you for talking to us. We just had Ningo Pram MP, some George. Now, chants of revolution songs have started. Thousands of people, thousands of people have converged here to protest.
And that is what is happening now. Chance of revolution and chance of wanting the central bank's governor out. Well, that is the Occupy Bank of Ghana conversation or protest ongoing. We'll be reconnecting from there with Maxwell Agbagba, our man on the ground. But we come back into the studio and there's a group joining me for a conversation. Interesting what they do. Reach Out Africa. They are reaching out to us this morning and to all of you. And we have a conversation with Monique Ohenewa and Kroma together with Abna Tiwa Kusi, Vice President, Reach Out Africa. Monique is President, Reach Out Africa. Ladies, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining me. Both of them lawyers, by the way. So we are going to do a bit of... Just tell me, for starters, Reach Out Africa. I'm sure those watching us are very curious. What is Reach Out Africa? I'll start with you, Monique. What is it all about? Okay. And when did you even start this?
Okay, Reach Out Africa started way back in 2018 as students.
5 years.
So, yes, 5 years ago. And Reach Out Africa is made up of a group of young professionals who are like-minded in bringing relief to the dispirited communities in Africa. So as the name suggests, in 2018, we sat down and we saw that change can not only be effected in Ghana, but we can go beyond our borders and reach out to the dispirited communities in Africa, especially disaster-stricken communities in Africa. So that's the whole idea behind Reach Out Africa. So it's not only Ghanaian-based, but we have members all over countries in Africa.
I guess that also explains why the name, because you're reaching out.
Definitely.
But Abna, give us a bit of a background to this organization. She's told us about some of what you do, but why did you even start up with this? And why did you? I know you were one of the startup members, right?
Yes, I am. So the background of this organization is that, well, we started out as students, and we looked at our environment. We looked at people who had challenges, people we saw and thought we could reach them. So we started with Hit the Street campaigns. We used to donate food, Christmas seasons, and then we thought of the youth. They need inspiration. They need some kind of guidance. So we had a campaign, high school tour, where we went to St. Louis Senior High School, we went to Asanteman, yes, so to give them inspiration, So that was how it started. Then the idea came, we are not just limited to Ghana. And
so you decided to spread your tentacles.
Yes, and actually,
go beyond Ghana.
Yes, we had a major project in Wa.
Okay.
Yes, we had, it was a village called Jaglu. Yes, we had a massive outreach where we had medical screening, food donation, we went to a high school there last year, Tolu. We had to speak to the children, and then there were actual concerns. And so that was how it started, and that's where we are going to right now.
That's interesting, and some of the things you've done, especially in the Boku area, interesting there. But your membership, there's a core membership, and has it grown? What is it like? Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, it has actually grown very significantly, because as at when we went to Wa, we were probably 20, yes. Yeah. But now we can count around 50 people, and they are active, joining us on our online platforms. We have meetings, and they are very instrumental in driving this vision. Yes, so we have actually grown quite significantly.
And that's very good to hear. But Monique, what would you say is the main aim, or are the main aims of Reach Out, this initiative? And maybe tell us about some of the projects you've embarked on beyond what Abna has told us.
Sure. So the main aim of Reach Out Africa is that we find a need and get a solution to it. And we also reach out to dispirited communities in Africa. So what we did in 2021 is that we found a community in the Upper West region. It's called Jaglu. It's a very remote community. It doesn't have lights, no access to social amenities that we have. And the distance,
the very things we take for granted.
Yes,
we don't even have.
Yes, the distance from Jaglu to the main town, it's quite a distance. we actually went with a car, and that was about 2 hours drive. So imagine this person in the small community, or this pregnant woman in the small community with no access to hospital. You know, it's terrible. So went to Jaglu. There was no hospital in Jaglu. So we had a free health screening for them. And we also went on an SHS store. You know, these are people in secluded areas, and they need people to look up to. And here we are as young lawyers, young doctors, and these people found so much inspiration in us. Most of them wanted to be doctors. They didn't know how, because they don't have access to the phones and the, you know, the technology that we have. So that is what we did basically in Jaglu in the Upper West region.
So again, heartwarming, you know, things you've been doing as young people, 5 years in the making. But what then is your next project? I know you have something big coming up. Tell us about that.
So in November this year, God willing, Reach Out Africa is spreading its wings. We are launching our first international project in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So there was...
The DRC?
Yeah, DRC.
What's happening there?
Yes. So there was a volcanic eruption in Democratic Republic of Congo in a city called Goma. And there was also, right after the volcanic eruption, there was also war. And it has forced about 200,000 people to get displaced. And these people are settling at the border of Rwanda, living in tents. You know, some have displaced families. They don't see no source of livelihood at all. So what we are doing is that we are going to give them hope. So we are going to have a massive food donation in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Wow. And what we are doing to make that a success is that we are launching a social media campaign where we reach out to international organizations, let them know that this is what is happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo that you don't know. So please come to their aid. So we've launched a social media campaign, the Rise Above campaign, where we let people know that this is what is happening. So that is what we'll be doing for the project. And also, as I said earlier, we are going to have a food donation. We're also going to get them, you know, they are displaced. They are living in refugee camps. So we are going to get them a proper accommodation. Aside that, we are going to give them grants to start off their own business, to start up their lives again.
Sounds like quite a lot.
Yeah, quite a lot that we are going to be
doing. And I'll come back to the bit about the social media campaign and, of course, your outreach. You're reaching out, your outreach to organizations and other individuals, corporate organizations to assist. But coming to you, Abna, what other steps are you taking in preparation? Because this is a big one. You are taking a giant leap from Ghana all the way to, you know, the DR Congo.
Yes. So as Monique said, we are starting with a social media campaign, and this is one of them. We are on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we are also going to have a fundraising event, yes, and also officially launching the group, the organization. So we are actually going to have a fundraising event on the 20th of October at the Lancaster Hotel, former Golden Tulip, yes, in Kumasi. Yes, and so we are having a massive fundraiser and also a lunch where we are getting our names out there. We are letting people know this is what we do, and we are passionate about it. Yes.
That's an interesting one. So she mentioned social media. Do you have any handles? Is it Reach Out Africa across
Reach Out Africa.
social media?
So reach_out_Africa.
Reach_out_Africa. Across social media.
Yes, social media.
Instagram?
Yes.
Twitter? Are you on
we
Twitter?
are not on Twitter.
Okay, Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook.
I think you mentioned Facebook.
Yeah.
But in terms of, before we get back to the fundraiser and what, you know, people can do, who can be a member of your group?
Anybody at all can be a member. You know, people get so scared that, oh, these are professionals. But once you have the heart for people, you know, we are serious people. We are not joking. So once you have the heart for people and you are willing to work hard, contribute to make people's life better, you are qualified to join. I mean, we have somebody who is a toilet engineer as part of the organization. So anybody at all, once you have the heart, you have a
passion for what
people.
You are doing.
Yes,
they can join you.
Definitely.
So from all walks of life, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. Once you have that passion and you want to assist humanity, you can join them. But how can they reach you? Social media, are there any ways they can reach out to you?
Yes, so our social media is active, as I mentioned, reach_out_Africa. And we also, our contacts, you can reach out to us on 0555-328535. So it's 0555-555-328535. So let me take it again, it's very important. 0555-328535. So you can WhatsApp us if you want to be a member, if you want to make history, if you want to be a part of this project that we're embarking on, just reach out to us and we'll work together.
So I'm sure you're reaching out to the corporate organizations, individuals who are willing to participate,
yes.
as well as those who are willing to donate. So to cap off the conversation, let's look at the fundraiser and what you are hoping to achieve. About how much are you hoping to raise? Are there items, valuables that people can bring on board? Both of you, I'll start with you. I'll start with you, Abena.
So with the project at hand, it's a massive project. And we are actually looking at a huge number, at least
as many as possible, eh?
Yes, as many
as possible.
Since it's
but do you have a target?
Since it's a launch, we are looking at everybody coming. You know, once you have the heart, you want to donate, you can come in and make your donation. It's a launch. So as part of the fundraiser, we want to tell the world that there is an organization called Reach Out Africa. So if you are interested, you can come in and make your donation. So aside the fundraiser, it's also a launch.
All right. So that number, I will reiterate it, apart from reaching out to Reach Out Africa at reach_out_Africa on Instagram and Facebook. You can call that number 0555-328535. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
0555-328535. A lot of fives in there, so you can give them 5 of everything you are thinking of. Any final words from Monique and Abena? I'll start with you, Monique.
So basically, I'll say that, you know, I'm calling on private individuals, international organizations, everyone to help support the people of Democratic Republic of Congo, because this is a natural disaster. It can happen to anybody at all. You know, it can just happen to anybody. So I'm giving a call to everyone, the general public. It doesn't matter the amounts that you have. It can give somebody hope. So just give us a call on 0555-328535. Make your donations and let's do this together. Let's put smiles on the faces of these people. Let's make the world a better place for them. And you know, one thing, I was having a conversation with one of them, you know, it's a refugee camp, so it has a lot of military men. I was just having a conversation with them and he said that these people, all that they need is hope. They need, you know, as young people, they are not in school. Their lives are just shattered like that. All they need from us is hope. Somebody to tell them that the world, they don't even need the food. Somebody to tell them that the world can be a better place. And that is what Reach Out Africa seeks to achieve.
All right. Abena, I know there are some people who may be watching us who are also concerned sometimes about accountability mechanisms. I know you have all of that in place. So you can come on board and everything will be done in the interest of our brothers and sisters. Final words, Abena?
Yes. So Monique has said a lot, and I would like to emphasize on the fact that our arms are open to everybody. Once you have the compassion for people, once you have the dream at heart, and you want to fuel this campaign, you are very welcome. And so it's a rare chance to make history. And as a Ghanaian-based international organization, it's rare. And so we all have a chance to make history. We all have an opportunity to make this a reality. So I am entreating everybody who has compassion for people, who is passionate about people, let's all come on board and let's make it an us game. Everybody did it. Thank you.
It reminds me of Ubuntu. We are because you are.
Yeah.
And you may not be able to go to the DR Congo, but your resources will be able to get there and help them get there as well. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining the conversation.
Thank you very much.
From Reach Out Africa, we've had Monique Ohinewa Nkrumah, President, Reach Out Africa, and Abnatiwa Kusi, Vice President, Reach Out Africa. Let me just also mention that there was a strong man who, followed them here. He is not in the picture, but also contributing his bits. Nana Bafo Akoto is the organizer. Shouts to him. Now, before we return on the AM show, your favorite TV game show in Ghana, Step Up, is back with another amazing season. This time, we're stepping up with Syntax Tank. Step Up with Syntax Tank will see contestants answer trivia questions to win cash prizes of between 400 Ghana cedis and over 6,000 Ghana cedis weekly, as well as other products from our sponsors. This season, you, viewing at home, should watch out for the Syntax Tank question of the week. Now, be the first to answer correctly via WhatsApp or SMS to the number 0508-338-888 and win incredible prizes from sponsors. The person who answers most of the weekly questions the fastest gets a 65-inch Samsung television at the end of the season. So, step up with Syntax Tank. It's a unique television experience. Step Up with Syntax Tank is sponsored by Bell Ice, MTN Momo, and Angel Cola. Now, no matter your water needs, Syntax Tank has it all. Syntax Tank, of course, is the first to introduce double-layer tanks, and now you can have as many layers as you want, customized. It's the first to introduce white inner layer tanks in Ghana, and now they're introducing to you the customer specifications order, which lets you order any color and any size of your preference. Syntax Tank gives you the longest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you in Ghana currently. So whatever your water consumption, size of project, or demand, choose Syntax Tank. We have agents nationwide. Just reach us on 0244 335 168 or shop online at syntaxgh.com. Syntax Tank, a strong, a tough. We'll be right back. Well, it's that time of the morning where we cap off the AM show. Some interesting conversations we've had today about that third force in our political system. I was particularly touched about the mental health issue in Ghana and what the authority is hoping to do. Rid our streets of them and give our brothers and sisters some dignity, which is what the basic that everybody deserves. So as I cap off the show this morning, we're grateful that you've taken the time to join us. Whatever you do, be kind to someone out there. Sometimes that's all people need. It's not your money, it's not anything else. They just want some respect and kindness. My name is Benjamin Akako. Thank you for having joined me on the AM show. Let's do it again, same time tomorrow. But up next, we have Joy News Desk.